I call this meeting of the Northeast Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code Chapter 551. The board will now adjourn into executive session pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Open Meetings Act. Texas Government Code Chapter 551.074 to discuss personnel or to hear complaints against personnel. 551.076 to discuss the intruder detection security audits, and 551.071 private consultation with the board's attorney, and the time is 5:30. The board will now reconvene into open session, and the time is 6:24. On behalf of the trustees, I'd like to welcome you to this evening's meeting of the Northeast Independent School Board. This is a business meeting of the board held in public. We appreciate your attendance and request your respectful attention. We welcome your comments during the matters from the floor section of the agenda. If you signed up to address a specific action agenda item, you will be called at that time. We wish to emphasize that this is a business meeting of the board, and while those in attendance may disagree about issues, it is our expectation that everyone will conduct themselves in a respectful and professional manner. Disruptions to this meeting by anyone will not be tolerated. In the event any person or group disrupts the meeting, a warning will be given to stop any disruptive behavior. Anyone persisting in disruptive behavior will be removed from the meeting. The board may also call a recess in the event of persistent disruptions, so that individuals who engage in disruptions can be removed. It is our intent to conduct the meeting in an orderly fashion. Finally, I would like to remind you that it is the mission of Northeast to challenge and encourage each student to achieve and demonstrate academic excellence, technical skills, and responsible citizenship. Item 5, Invocation and Pledge of Allegiance. A, Nimitz Middle School, Ms. Cooper.
Good evening, Madam President, board members, Dr. Micah, executive staff, and guests. My name is Jennifer Cooper, and I am the proud principal of Nimitz STEM Middle School. Tonight, it is my pleasure to introduce two incredible Nimitz Seahawks who both lead with honor, courage, and commitment. Providing the invocation is 8th grader Amani Estrada. Joining Amani is her mother, Daniela Estrada, and her father, John Motes. Amani, Miss Estrada, and Mr. Motes, will you please stand and be recognized? Amani is in athletics, where she can be seen showing off her talents on the basketball court and the track. Her school spirit is quite noticeable, as she is often found cheering on the other teams. Amani is also one of the first smiling faces you see when you step into our school, as she serves as an office aide, which is a title that is difficult to earn. One teacher describes Amani as driven, while I refer to her as a fearless young lady who will change the world. Leading the Pledge of Allegiance and the Texas Pledge is 8th grader James O'Connor. Joining James tonight are his grandparents, Mary and Gilbert O'Connor. James, Mr. and Mrs. O'Connor, will you please stand and be recognized? James serves on the choir council as the midshipman of social events. He is an office aide, is taking high school credit courses, participates in AVID, and is in athletics. James is also quite the competitor when it comes to serving as a member of the award-winning Nimitz Cyber Patriot team. James is described by his choir teacher as a steadfast young man with integrity who is a role model to our younger students in choir and shows grit by being willing to attempt things in which he is not guaranteed success. It is our pleasure to have Amani and James representing the mighty Nimitz Middle School Seahawks tonight. Thank you. Come on up.
Please close your eyes and bow your head. Heavenly Father, we come to you today to ask you for your support as we begin this meeting. We ask that you fill the members present today with guidance and wisdom as they discuss topics that affect us all and our families. Please allow meaningful discussion to take place so that our community can grow and prosper. We also ask you to lift those in Israel. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and Texas Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now for the Texas Pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. You may be seated.
Amani and James, will you please come forward? We have certificates for you, and we would like to get a picture. And parents, grandparents, you're also welcome to take pictures if you would like. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. And yes, you're welcome to leave. They're out the door already. Item 6, recognition. A, President's remarks on acknowledgement of special calendar events. October is Principals Month, so to all of our wonderful principals, thank you for what you do every day for our students. Do we have any principals in the audience tonight? You have to stand and be recognized. That's what happens when you show up. But thank you, and thank you to all of your colleagues. This is also School Lunch Week. The theme is Level Up with School Lunch, and I know several of us are going to serve. I believe it's on Wednesday, so thank you to all of our school nutrition people for what they do every day to feed our kiddos. And I look forward to, Wednesday. Is it enchiladas? Is it? Please? I hope so. All right. October, it's nachos? Is that what you said?
Normally it's nachos or enchiladas.
Okay, all right. Yeah. It'll be messy. October 11th is Texas Human Resources Education Day, and October 16th to the 20th is National School Bus Safety Week. And thank you to HR and our school bus drivers. Are we still looking for bus drivers? So if anybody's interested in driving a bus, please reach out to us. But thank you. So if you see anybody associated with any of these principals, school nutrition, HR, and bus drivers, please thank them because they do amazing things for our district. Item B, Advanced Placement 3D Art and Design Perfect Score Reagan High School student, Mr. Jimenez.
Thank you, President Grona, members of the board, Dr. Micah, executive staff, and guests. Julie Shore, Executive Director for Fine Arts, will address this agenda item.
Good evening. Thousands of students across the nation set off on an advanced placement journey every year. Taking AP classes is no easy task. It takes a lot of time, dedication, and commitment. On the AP 3D Art and Design exam taken at the end of the school year last year, only 52 students in the entire nation earned a perfect score. And our Reagan High School senior, Anya Valdez, is one of them. AP exams are scored on a scale of 1 to 5. Anya earned a perfect 5 and maximized every point possible on the AP 3D Art and Design exam. Anya is involved in art and is also on the Reagan track team. We are so proud of Anya and her accomplishment. I would like to also thank the incredible teachers who continue to challenge and support our students every step of the way. Anya is joined tonight by her mother and father and her grandmother. Anya, you want to come up for pictures?
Congratulations again, what an accomplishment. And thank you for being here. Item 7, matters from the floor. The trustees welcome comments from members of the public during this time of the meeting. Generally, board members do not respond to public comments during the meeting, although members may request further information or a future agenda item on a matter raised during public comment. As explained fully in the board's written procedures for this time, the matters from the floor portion is a limited public forum. Accordingly, speakers may present on a topic related to district business for up to 3 minutes, but are not permitted to make 1, personal complaints about an individual staff or board member that should be raised using the district's grievance policies, 2, a personnel action, 3, a student disciplinary matter, 4, a complaint about a particular student, 5, or pending litigation. Any person who persists in speaking on these topics after being directed not to do so will lose the remainder of their time to speak and may lose their privilege of addressing the board at future meetings. If you signed up to speak on a specific agenda item, you will be called up when the board reaches that item. Please remember that this is a business meeting of the board. Any person or group engaging in outbursts of any kind causing a disruption to the meeting will be warned, and if they persist, will be removed from the meeting. This is to ensure that all speakers have an opportunity to make comments without interruption and that the board members are able to pay full attention to speakers without any distractions. We also welcome written comments at any time, either through email at board@neisd.net or by mail, care of the superintendent's office at 8961 Tesoro Drive, 6th floor, San Antonio, Texas, 78217. So I think it's maybe 4 and 5.
Okay, that's what should we ask if that's the item they want to speak to? I mean, this one's specific. She's specific. But
I think these 3 are down to, down here.
number 2 and 3?
I think 1, 2, and 3 are this
Okay,
one up here.
okay.
So,
No, this one is item above that.
yeah, you're right, 9B, but then those 2, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah.
Have to make sure we're calling the right items here. Be number 4. Number 4,
There we go.
My name is Paul Zeiss. I served as 22 years as pastor at MacArthur Park Lutheran Church over on Lovelace at Nacogdoches. My 3 children all graduated from NEISD. I would like to speak to this evening about the matter coming before every board in the state regarding chaplains in public schools. That's, I think, State Bill 763. And my understanding is that Northeast and everyone else will need to make a decision by March whether or not to have chaplains, volunteer chaplains in public schools. I am also a member of Americans United for Separation from Church and State, Texas Pastors for Public Schools, and several other organizations. And there are 2 groups who could not come tonight, had hoped to come. One was people from the Jewish Federation, but they are over at Temple Bethel dealing with the war in Israel. We also had some Protestants who wanted to come tonight, but they're in Austin dealing with this special legislative session on vouchers. I would encourage you, from our experience in the past, not to have volunteer, unvetted, unsupervised chaplains in your schools. And let me tell you the experience why. In 2005, when Hurricane Katrina headed for New Orleans, I was asked on behalf of the Community of Congregations to work with the head chaplain at Fort Sam Houston to figure out how we might provide pastoral care to all the evacuees coming here from New Orleans. We had people we had never heard of come forward and say they were pastors. Now, we had no problems with pedophiles, but we had problems with people in the shelter, which was over at the old Windsor Park Mall, the rack space facility. They were going bed to bed to people, saying to them things like, "You know you're here because God is punishing New Orleans because it's so corrupt, because there's so many sinners there, you tolerate homosexuals, etc., etc." Several of us went to some of these people and said, "Please don't do that. That's not the role of a trained chaplain. You're embarrassing our city." They continued to do it, saying it was their freedom of speech, freedom of religion. It got so bad. 3 years later, when Hurricane Ike headed for Galveston, we were told we're not going to get volunteer chaplains from San Antonio. They brought in people from Dallas who had better common sense than to criticize people who were captive and could not move out of the shelter. I am concerned, and I think others are concerned too, that if we have volunteer chaplains from San Antonio, the same thing will happen in your public schools. Well, you'll have people with personal agendas beyond that of trying to take care of young people, speaking out and causing commotion. So I would recommend to you, I know it's not on the agenda tonight, but when it gets to that point, that you give serious consideration and not allow volunteer chaplains in your public schools. We don't need to go through what we went through with Katrina again. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Number 5.
On September 8th, 7:12 a.m., I received this text from my son. "Some guy drove past me and gave me the middle finger and yelled, 'Go back where you belong.' My son is 10, comes to my chin, slender, 6th grader. He was on his bike on his way to Harris Middle School to take the magnet bus to Data at Ed White. Are you okay? Do you understand what he meant? And do you feel safe?" He answered yes, and he got to school. But I was not okay. My concern is not to ask you all to stop racism in the community. My concern is about the safety of the magnet students who are waiting for the buses at the home schools. When I went onto the website to see what information there was about safety regarding the magnet bus system, all I could find was what time the buses will be there, where to go, the numbers, that basic kind of information. I did speak with Principal Whitaker at Harris Middle School, who was wonderful. Immediately put me at ease. We immediately discussed safety. I felt my son was safe at Harris Middle School. But my concern was, what about the other students? What if other incidents, for example, happened on Harris property? My son is enrolled at Data at Ed White, even though Harris is our neighborhood school. If something happens at Harris, as a parent, I don't get those notices. How will I be able to make a decision about the safety of my son or what to do if I don't have that information available? The other thing is also, what happens if there's other types of safety incidents like this for those magnet students? What if it rains? What if somebody does come to campus that early in the morning? The students are outside. They don't wait inside. What if the bus is late? I know Harris was good. I don't know about the other middle schools. I don't know about the high school situation. But I would like to ask you all to consider about the safety portion of the magnet program students. My son is okay. I'm getting there. And before he shut off his phone for school, he said, "Thank you for looking out for me." And I said, "It's because I love you."
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that's all from matters from the floor. Item 8, matters from executive session. A, personnel including but not limited to administrative appointments pursuant to Government Code Section 551.074, possible action regarding conduct of a board member. There is no action, however, there was concern about an email that I sent, so I'm going to read the email. All, I spoke with Rick and legally we can do the interviews in open session. However, I have some concerns with doing that, so I would like to share with you. We switched to the individual applicant format from the candidate forum style because we didn't want the others to hear everyone's answers. We didn't want to give the ones who answered last the opportunity to say, "I agree with what's been said before me." I believe if we do it in open session, it will give those who go later in the process an advantage because they will hear the others' questions. I know we may ask different questions of different applicants, but they can see what we think and may be able to frame their answers accordingly. I know we can ask the other applicants to not be in the room, but it's an open session and we can't deny them from being in there. We also can't prevent them from watching the live feed from their phone or other device. I believe that those who go first will be at a disadvantage. If it's an open session, anyone can be in there, including media, and I'm not sure that's fair to the applicants to have their interview be potentially spread all around. I believe that we need to treat this like an interview for a job, and that would not be done in an open setting. The 6 of us have the decision to make. This is not up for community input. Whoever gets appointed will have to run in May if they want to keep the seat, and at that time, they will have to face the community and be involved in open forums. Therefore, we will follow the process that we have followed in the past, and the second interview will be held in closed session. The order is as follows. I went in alphabetical order. Jacqueline Klein, Nan Ritchie, Rhonda Rowland, Tracy Shelton. Next item, number 9, presentations. A, intruder detection audit by Texas School Safety Center. Dr. Micah.
Thank you, Madam President. As we discussed in closed session, we did have, or I should start with, the Texas School Safety Center is again starting our door audits district-wide. To date, we have had 6 of our campuses audited. Of those, 5 of them were clean. One of our schools did have a finding that we were able to address within a day.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item B, dual language and hyper-accelerated math redesign, and we had someone sign up to speak to that.
And that's number 1.
I wanted to speak to the, my name is Deborah Parrish, hello. And I wanted to speak to the hyper-accelerated math redesign. Last night, coincidentally, on NBC News, I saw an article entitled, "Latino Black Enrollment in Advanced Math Shot Up After States Made This Change. Should it be a model?" The change apparently involved, and Hayes County put this article up, looking at the STAR scores, and anybody in the top 40% in math be given the opportunity to, and be encouraged to look at going into an accelerated math program. I was very excited. I'm a retired school teacher, and my mother taught gifted and talented in this district years ago, and was very high in math herself. And the article is wonderful. I hope you'll take a look at it if you haven't seen it. It did mention the movie Stand and Deliver, which came out many years ago, story of Jaime Escalante, and how he took some students from a school that had never accomplished anything, low performing and so on. He took these students to some kind of competition. They all did very well in calculus, and I look at a calculus book and go, what is this language? And they aced the test. Nobody believed it, and they forced his students to retake the test because they didn't believe kids from low income who were minority students racially were able to pass a calculus test. And they all passed it well again. If you check the article, I wish I realized this was on the agenda earlier than I did. You will see numbers of how much the scores have gone up since they have incorporated having advanced math given to everybody, not just teacher or parent recommendation. I strongly encourage you to read that article and seriously consider getting in touch with Hayes County and other school districts, that one just happens to be here in Texas, who have done this and have seen scores jump up on the STAR tests. Appreciate it.
Okay, Mr. Jarrett.
Thank you, Madam President, Dr. Micah, members of the board, executive staff, and guests. At this time, I would like to ask April Musquiz and Jennifer Gutierrez to come forward for this agenda item. And as they come forward, just to give some context, something that we've been continuing to work on is really looking at all of our programs and looking at efficiencies and effectiveness. And so tonight's presentation is really our opportunity to bring forward to you something that we would like to explore in the next coming years.
So thank you, Mr. Jarrett. Ladies and gentlemen, if you'll recall back in June when you all passed the budget, at that time, we described to you all it was a $39 million deficit that we would have to search for some ways in which to cost save. And at that point, it was not about ending programs. It was really about looking for efficiency in our programs. So tonight, this is one idea. Before we go and start talking to schools and start talking to parents, it's important to me that you all are the first to know kind of what we're looking at. Our intent is not to vote on it tonight. It's really about information and then for us to go to our communities to start gathering feedback. But this is one of those ways that we've identified in which there are some significant money savings as well as bolstering our programs as well. So, Dr. Musquiz.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Micah, executive staff, and guests. Tonight, as Dr. Micah shared, we are sharing a presentation regarding two of our NEISD instructional programs, the Dual Language Program and the Hyper Accelerated Math Program. We will cover each program separately to allow for questions regarding each of these programs. Our district scorecard and each of the 4 priorities, students, staff, stakeholders, and stewardship, are central to the considerations being presented this evening. Alignment to the district scorecard is a commitment highlighted throughout. I would like to bring your attention to Chapter 89, Adaptations for Special Populations, which is the policy that requires students identified as emergent bilingual students to participate in a bilingual or English as a second language program. In addition, Districts with an enrollment of 20 or more emergent bilingual students of the same primary language shall be served in a bilingual program in the elementary grades, defined in policy as pre-kindergarten through 5th grade. Our district ensures the requirements for emergent bilingual students are met by delivering bilingual instruction through the 90-10 dual language program model, monitoring and assessing progress accordingly. Dual language teachers must hold appropriate bilingual certification or be filed under a bilingual education exception. Emergent bilingual students in the dual language program are served at 16 campuses across the district in elementary and in secondary at 5 middle schools and 1 high school. Elementary enrollment is the greatest, currently at just over 5,200 students. This table was presented at the September board meeting, and we are sharing it once again to display the steady increase in enrollment of emergent bilingual students over the last 8 years. As emergent bilingual student enrollment has increased, dual language teacher vacancies are rising as well. At this time, in October of 2022, there were 24 dual language teacher vacancies. 19 vacancies were filled by international teacher hires throughout the year, and currently we have 12 dual language teacher vacancies this year. So addressing program challenges that we currently have, recruiting and teacher vacancies represent the staffing challenges currently faced, even after additional hiring strategies have been employed, including relocation bonuses and contracting with an external agency. The dual language program model is currently implemented alongside monolingual instruction at each of the 16 elementary campuses. Collaborative teacher planning can often require double the time for instructional design between teacher teams. Class sizes, as we will see in a moment with Mrs. Gutierrez, are unable to be balanced across a grade level with multiple programs in place.
Thank you, Dr. Muskies. Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Micah, executive staff, and guests. As we heard from Dr. Muskies, she gave us an overview of the program requirements for emergent bilinguals and some challenges we have faced with our dual language program. This next part of the presentation will focus on exploring potential options that can assist with our staffing challenges, at the same time support our cost-saving measures for our district. So on this table, you will find data for 2 of our dual language campuses. Campus A and Campus B are 1.8 miles from one another. They both offer the dual language program. The table here shows the number of student enrollments. So for example, if we follow the pre-K row, we will see that at Campus A, there are 30 students enrolled with 2 teachers allocated for those pre-K classrooms. At Campus B, we have 23 students currently enrolled with 2 teachers allocated for a total of 4 pre-K teachers at that grade level between both campuses. When we add our pre-K through 5th grade allocations, we see that we have 40 dual language teachers allocated at both of those campuses only for the dual language program. At the top of the table here, again, we see the same 2 campuses. And the table now includes the current class size averages. So for example, again, looking at pre-K, we see that at Campus A, they have a class size average of 15 students. And at Campus B, they have a class size average of 11.5. Again, both campuses are allocated a total of 40 teachers based on the number of students that are enrolled. Now, if we look at the table below, if we were to explore clustering our dual language program to one of the 2 campuses, and instead of offering the dual language program at both campus A and B, which again are 1.8 miles from each other, And for the purposes of this example, we could say Campus A becomes a dual language academy. So it would offer 100% dual language classrooms. It becomes a very specialized school, a boutique type of school. And we can see again with that same pre-K example that the students from Campus A and Campus B are now combined. So we would have the 30 students that are enrolled in Campus A, the 23 students that are enrolled in Campus B for a total of 53 students, and we would only need 3 teachers. And you can see there that the class average would be 17.6 as those 2 grade levels are combined. We have provided that example for every grade level, which you can see here that instead of needing 40 teachers at both of those campuses, we would only need a total of 34 teachers. This would allow for balanced class sizes, some efficiencies within, again, our schools, and some cost savings to the district based on the number of teachers that we would need. And in addition, this could potentially support our staffing challenges for dual language vacancies. Campus A and B also offer a monolingual program. And so the same 2 campuses again, you can see these are their numbers for their general education monolingual program. If we use kindergarten as an example here, Campus A has a total enrollment of 29 students currently in their general education classrooms, with 2 teachers allocated to the kindergarten program. Campus B has 32 students that are enrolled, again with 2 teachers allocated. And in that grade level combined, they have 4 teachers, and both campuses have a total of 28 teachers for their monolingual program pre-K to 5. At the top of the table, we again see information for the same 2 campuses. Now we get to see their average class sizes. For that same example, under kindergarten, we can see that Campus A has a class average of 14.5, and Campus B has a average class size of 16. Again, both campuses combined needing 28 total teachers. And if we take a look at the bottom part of the table, if we explore clustering all monolingual students, and again, for the purpose of this example, if Campus B were to be a monolingual school, then we would only need 22 total teachers based on the enrollment and the combination of students from Campus A and Campus B. This campus model mirrors our 29 other elementary schools that only offer the monolingual general education program and do not currently have the dual language program within their schools. Again, you can see our class sizes being more balanced and efficient in this model. So some of the benefits of clustering align to our district scorecard priorities for our students. They would receive very specialized services specific to their program. We would have certified staff. Currently, as you saw in Dr. Muski's chart, we have 12 dual language vacancies. So this would allow us to have bilingual staff available for all of our classrooms to support our students, and potentially not have to submit for bilingual exceptions and waivers and have other staff like substitutes fill in those positions. For our staff, their professional learning and support would be very personalized to their program, whether it's for the dual language program or for the monolingual program. They would receive very specific, again, targeted support aligned to their needs and their instructional strategies. We would be able to have the ability to support the dual language academies with expertise from all staff. That would be principals, teachers, any specialized programs that are assigned to that campus would be very specific to the dual language framework and model. For our stakeholders, we would be able to offer a 100% dual language academy. Again, a very boutique type of school, magnet school that would support our dual language students, but also support parent interests, as we currently have 1,368 families that are enrolled in our dual language program that are not emergent bilinguals. So they choose the program for their children who are English proficient as a part of them wanting their children to be bilingual and biliterate and follow the program within the model of dual language, even though it is not a requirement for them because they are not emergent bilinguals. Under stewardship, again, we're looking at balanced class sizes, efficiency, and then a cost savings to the district based on the model that was shown on the tables. Exploring next steps, so we would like to explore these next steps, again, keeping our district scorecard at the forefront of all of our decisions. For our students, really analyzing the least amount of impact and disruption to our students and our campuses, as we are creating these clusters and exploring the option to combine. For our staff, being able to go out and talk to staff, ask for their feedback and their input through surveys, work closely with human resources to support staff who may have to relocate to a different campus based on clustering. For our stakeholders, we would hold in-person community feedback meetings to help them understand the process, the why, the benefits, and also ask for their input and feedback based on this change. We would use surveys as well. And then aligned to parent choice, our parents would still have the opportunity to opt into school choice as they do if the cluster that they are assigned to or the school that we are proposing is not one that they would prefer. They would still have the option to apply for school choice. Transportation, we would work very closely with Mr. Bill Harrison in the transportation department to find an option for our families who are being clustered and ensure that there is a mean of transportation for them. Under stewardship, we would explore options to consolidate. We talked about, Dr. Muski shared that we have 16 dual language campuses, so over a 2-year period, we will explore those options to consolidate and develop a cost analysis for you so that you can see the benefits and the cost measures that would be connected to this initiative, and then bring you a board update for possible approval in February. At this time, we would like to open the floor for questions for the dual language presentation.
Yeah, before we do that, let me just give you a ballpark figure to that one scenario. So if we were to cluster in that and you downsize by 12 staff members, there's also a few other staff in there, the cost savings is somewhere around... No.
Oh.
That's per teacher.
Right. What were you asking?
Are you going to go with me here, Mr. Villarreal?
Sorry.
I've already done my math. You can check it.
12 times 75?
Yeah, 12 times 75 is 900,000. But then there's some other pieces in there. So that one scenario is approximately $1 million in savings. And again, the key is, and what I want to make sure that's understood is, this is an idea right now. It takes a lot of feedback. It takes a lot of talking to community, to school personnel before that move. But this is one of those concepts where we can look at delivering it differently, where we can actually bolster up the program a little bit by making it, as Ms. Gutierrez said, a boutique campus, to where it's really only that piece. But look, it's going to impact some folks as well. I mean, that's just the honest piece. But this is one of those ways when we start looking across it, I'm going to get out over my skis a little bit and don't hold me to it. But when we looked at this, if we were to do it purely like this, which I don't think we can, but if we did, this is somewhere around an $8 million savings through the whole system. It's a large sum of money tied to this. But I want you to understand that as we've looked at it in a cursory look, I don't know that we can do that pure piece to get to that dollar amount. But there are some significant cost savings here to make up that $39 million deficit. No, thank you, Madam President.
Question, anybody have questions?
I had one comment, Madam President. Thank you all. Conceptually sounds good. Obviously, there are going to be trade-offs. I think that parent input in particular, and then the transportation piece, but it looks like a good opportunity aligned with the scorecard to provide that balanced classroom size. I think is the key thing for the student learning, because we got to keep that at the forefront. So I think that's a great opportunity if the rest of the pieces work out realistically. So looking forward to seeing feedback from the parents, the communities, the teachers as well, because of that moving, that it's an impact as well. But it looks like a good option for us to possibly consider, assuming y'all find all the practical pieces that go with the rest of the concept.
Yeah.
So this is a really good first look. So thank you for
and Mr. Hilliard, one thing I want to add that I did not is, as these meetings start to get scheduled and they're happening in your single member district, we're going to let you know. And if you want to come and listen, please come and listen. I mean, it's going to be truly listening and understanding folks' point of view, and trying to balance these four components out in bringing you back a recommendation that makes sense. We say in here a 2-year plan, folks, it could be 3. I don't know. The complexity of each community is that, and we need to treat it. We've talked about our 7 distinct communities. That's how we're going to go about doing this. So we'll just start making our way through, and it's very real. I want you all to know that we may say we're only going to talk this year to this group, these 3 or 4 communities, and then next year we'll pick another 3 or 4 and we'll work our way through. Because what we don't want to do is get into a rush and just be going out and listening and it just starts. We really want to take our time and do it right by each community. Okay?
I have a quick question. Is it possible that if we do move forward with something like this and there's a shuffle of students and teachers, that we inadvertently end up overwhelming a group of teachers or a couple of teachers?
No, I mean, the answer's no, because as you can look at your numbers, just look at the class size numbers. Remember, by state law, pre-K through 4, right? No, kinder through 4th is 22 to 1. So we never exceed that number. And so again, what we're going to do by bringing you a proposal in the future is also talk about the support that we would be able to deliver that campus, not just consolidate, but here's how the support would look differently for them. Did y'all want to add anything to that?
Well, as we said, we'll work very closely with human resources and ensure that there is a plan of support for teachers who are having to relocate, and also we want to create the least amount of disruption and impact, so that will definitely be a part of the plan.
And just understand under this, nobody would lose their job. I want everybody to understand that, all right? What we would do is work with HR to make sure that people have placements about if this were the path that you all approve sometime next spring, right? So I just want you to know that nobody's going to, we need teachers, all right?
I have a quick question. So you mentioned this magic number of $8 million. All right, you had me at that. Is that per cluster, or is just total
that's
throughout
total,
the
Ms.
district?
Villarreal. That would be total if we clustered everything purely along that example. But again, I don't know that that's going to work with every single scenario. Okay? So it will, in some cases, in this case, they're 1.8 miles apart, they're pretty close. But in some clusters, they're spread out a little bit more. And at that point then, you got to start looking at, does that even make sense? And some other factors in there that we've been talking about. But again, this is conceptually something we've been talking about. Susie's been, and her folks have been working with us to get some ballpark numbers, because when we first looked at this, we only looked at it solely from the dual language side. But then when we started to realize, oh my goodness, this actually is going to start reduction of staff on the monolingual side as well, is where we got to, this is a large sum here that can be saved. Still delivering the service, it's just going to be delivered differently. And it gets back to Ms. Villarreal, something you and I have had many discussions about with these boutique type schools, that this is where it is. It's not everywhere, it's here, and you can come to it if you wish.
in creation of these boutique-type schools, is that an opportunity for us to offer to a larger community, maybe a school of choice for other school districts within the area?
I think we've had that discussion before. That's really a board's decision on whether you all wish to open the boundaries or not.
I think on the flip side of Ms. Landry's question about overwhelming a school, I guess just to keep in mind as we go forward, making sure we're not shifting student population and teacher population around to where now we put a school in danger of being under-enrolled, where we have to look at campus consolidation because of some issue like that. So
that is why I'm being sort of elusive,
Right.
Mr.
And I know
Byer, is
we have
that
case studies
what
and
we don't want to do is make one move and help something and inadvertently hurt another in the process, right? And so that is the essence of, we're giving you a scenario, but that's why I'm saying in a pure scenario, this is one way, but it's not going to work. It's never that clean, and that's where feedback's going to be so essential as we move it along.
And to see the numbers drop, I guess just on the dual language portion from like 5th grade to middle school, is that because students are sort of getting, like, consciously getting out of the program because they don't need the program anymore, or they don't like the program? I mean, is it a combination of all those things? It just seems like we go from 5,000 students down to,
I think it's a combination of students exiting the program. They're being reclassified, so they're exiting the program at middle school. And also, we only offer the program at 5 campuses, so their choices are limited.
Limited, okay.
And the program structure is also different in secondary versus elementary, and so that kind of changes the attitude or the acceptance of the program going forward. So that's part of it too.
Thanks.
So is there a timeline for when you're going to start these feedback meetings and surveys and?
Well, what we have a rough estimate, but what we wanted to do first was to present it to you all and let me feel the room, quite frankly, and see if this is, I told my staff, please hold back until we have an opportunity to inform you all. And let's see, because it's imperative you all know what we're thinking. And then at least then when you're approached by a constituent in your community, you can have that conversation, say, yep, this is what's going on. You come to this meeting or come to that meeting. So we'll start them.
So
I turned to him.
So really, after this meeting, then we'll get together and really create a timeline of meeting schedules and different things like that, and then come up with a communications plan with our communications office on how we can reach out to our communities to make sure they're informed about when these times and these opportunities to have these face-to-face conversations, working with our Qualtrics to send out the surveys to make sure we get feedback and timely feedback, and then sort through that. So there's a lot of factors go into it, but the first step was getting in front of you guys to make sure that you're fully aware, because we don't want you blindsided at any point through your communities.
And obviously, as you get information back and feedback, and we hear from the community and from the teachers and the administrators, that February sort of time frame could be beyond that. Could be March, could be whatever. And I think,
Mr.
As
Byer,
we've seen
it's
in the
going
past, we want to make sure we do our due diligence, like you said.
We're giving you in a perfect scenario, right? In the end, we're going to let the process drive the timeline, not so much a definitive date, and then say, well, too bad, we're not listening anymore. It's kind of like, no, we need to take everything into consideration and hear viewpoints to make the best informed recommendation to you all sometime next spring.
Okay. So now are we moving on to Ham?
So the next part of our presentation focuses on our hyper-accelerated math program, also known as HAM. And I just want to draw attention to, we're saying that we want to redesign the program and not get rid of the program. So it's really important that we still offer the differentiated options for our students who show exceptional math aptitude. And the program was developed in 2018 just for that, to really provide a differentiated option for our students so that by the time they get to high school, they have the opportunity to earn college credit and more course options. So here on our table, our colorful table shows our NEISD math pathways. So you can see our on-level sequence starting at 4th grade through middle school. Then we have our honors accelerated sequence that allows students to take one high school credit course, Algebra 1. And our hyper-accelerated sequence is the one we are speaking of today, which allows our students to have 2 high school credit courses, Algebra 1 and Geometry, by the time they leave 8th grade. And really the purpose is for students to, again, have access to a variety of course options, as you can see on the purple box to the right, based on their future career interests, based on what they decide that they want to pursue. And so students do have the opportunity to choose from multiple course options once they enter high school. For the purpose of this presentation, we really want to focus on the 5th grade hyper-accelerated math program. So if we go back to our green row, hyper-accelerated sequence under 5th grade, you can see that at that time students are taking the 6th grade honors course, and students do not have that option in elementary school. That is not an elementary school course. So we have to find different ways for our students to be delivered that service or that option. Another point that I want to make sure that everybody understands with hyper-accelerated is that we universally screen all students at the end of 3rd grade, so every child has the option to enter into the program in their 4th grade year based on assessment results. So currently, the 5th grade HAM course is offered to students in a variety of ways. One way is if a campus has 15 or more students assigned to their class, then they have one of their 5th grade teachers who is certified in middle school to service their students. So the rest of the 5th grade students are divided with the rest of the team, and one of the 5th grade teachers is assigned to teaching that course on the campus. For students or schools that have less than 15 students, then our curriculum and instruction department has hired 11 roving teachers, and the roving teachers are assigned to different campuses. They teach 3 sections of the HAM 5th grade course, traveling to 3 different sites daily to provide that support. And currently we have 30 sites that are serviced through that model. And we also offer a hybrid model for campuses that have 1 to 2 students. Again, not having enough rovers to service individual students, we've had to get very creative and created a hybrid model that allows for one of the 11 rovers to serve in a hybrid model on a rotating A-B schedule. So A week, the students are serviced through in-person instruction 3 days a week, 2 days of virtual, and that alternates on B week, where they would receive 2 days of in-person instruction and 3 days of virtual. Currently, as of last week, we have a total of 370 4th grade students enrolled in the HAM program and 317 in the 5th grade program. So here is an example of 2 of our roving teachers' schedules. So you can see that our rovers, again, as I mentioned, they travel to 3 different campuses daily. They begin their day at 8 o'clock is their first period. They travel to their first campus, and they service the number of students assigned to them in the same school every day. They then travel to their second campus, for the next assigned school and the number of students assigned, and you can see again then their third rotation. So in the example of teacher A, that teacher services 11 students daily and they travel 5.2 miles. And the curriculum and instruction math department does a really good job of trying to keep those schools as closely as possible to maximize schedules and travel time between rovers. Our rovers are paid for their daily mileage. Okay. And at this time, Dr. Muskies will share additional possibilities and next steps for our hyper-accelerated math program.
As possibilities are explored to improve alignment with the district scorecard, considerations may include continuing to offer hyper-accelerated math at campuses with 15 or more qualifying students, and also offering designated cluster schools for the Math Accelerated program. Seeking community input will provide valuable feedback for additional possibilities to examine. We seek to provide the following benefits aligned to each priority of the district scorecard. Increased collaboration between students and continuing to offer the program, clustering at centralized locations, reducing travel time for employees, continuing to offer a hyper-accelerated math program model, as well as identifying ways to increase stewardship with balanced class sizes and cost savings. So our next steps aligned to our district scorecard will involve shaping a redesign that has the least amount of impact to students and campuses, seeking and responding to feedback from staff and stakeholders, and bringing back to the board a detailed cost analysis and updates in early spring. So thank you, and at this time, I would like to ask if there are any questions that we may address regarding the hyper-accelerated math presentation.
Any questions?
Just one, Madam President. Are we generally seeing a trend of increasing number of students when we're testing every third day? Are we seeing higher enrollments across in the HAM program, I guess, for lack of a better term, as a general trend the last couple of years? Or is it staying pretty consistent?
I would say we have seen an increase.
Okay.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I think we took a slight dip during the pandemic.
Sure.
But we have seen an increase in, again, especially with universally screening all of third grade students, and that has allowed us to identify more students that qualify for the program.
So this program is likely to continue to grow in some shape with the number of students involved. Okay, thank you. That's it.
Go ahead.
One question I had, sort of early on in the one of the earlier slides, it talks about the on-ramps dual credit, and kind of brings up a question I've had before, but are those things that, I guess for the HAM program, that's what they're kind of put into, but do those kids have options or do the schools have options to have pre-calculus but not on-ramps or dual credit? I mean, if they want the pre-calculus class but not necessarily on-ramps or dual credit, or are we locked into that at every school?
All the schools have the opportunity to offer advanced math classes in all of those categories. Ultimately, the course catalog and course selection should have access for kids to choose if they want that class. The challenges at times with dual credit is finding a teacher to teach dual credit
because they have to be
across
certified,
the whole entire district. And so that's where the challenges come in, hence why there was a push for on-ramps, is to diversify our portfolio of math offerings. So if a school can't offer dual credit, perhaps they can offer AP stats as well as on-ramp stats. So at least you have two vehicles to get an advanced level course under your belt.
But those on-ramps also have to be certified teachers, correct?
They have to be certified in math. They don't have to have dual credit. The on-ramps teachers have to go through a 2-week training in the summer with UT Austin, and once they complete that training in UT Austin, they have to then meet with the professor, I believe, and don't quote me on this, it's been a while, but I think twice a year, and then they have to go back every summer for 3 days to re-up their credentials with University of Texas.
So are those the HAM students, that is the natural course that they would have to, basically have to take the dual credit or on-ramps version of those
They still have the
courses?
choice, Mr. Byer. I think it's really about what lights their fire the most. It's very different from a student who wants to take calculus versus a student who wants to take stats. And so depending on what their career choices may be, they can opt into that vehicle. But it does garner them greater access to multiple courses, because some students could take calculus and stats the same year because they've already achieved many high school credits in mathematics.
Right. Okay. But I know going forward, as we look at this, I want to make sure that we're looking at that as well, because I know there are examples where that was the only class offered at a school, and that, you know, if a student or a family or a parent or guardian doesn't necessarily want to have to deal with that whole part of dual credit, or they're just looking to take a calculus class and not have to have an actual on-ramps or dual credit, I know that option isn't always available to everybody.
Yeah, and that's something we need to spend some time educating our campuses on, because really ultimately it should be the parent and the child working together to map out their future goals and then aligning their courses of study to what that goal is.
Yeah, but the other thing, and Mr. Jarrett, correct me if I'm wrong, is that could be driven by interest level as well. There's only 3 kids that are wanting to pursue that class may not be offered at that school.
Correct. And so
due to low interest.
Yes, and that's
correct.
where the course catalog drives the master schedule. Typically, a course doesn't make if there's less than 15 kids in there, because what that does is it oversizes another class and makes that class 35 kids. And so the principals and the campuses have to make decisions that make a balanced master schedule just as well, but it does increase the communication need between the school and home.
I have a question, and I apologize if you said this. I didn't catch it. If you, all the students are going through and to be tested or whatever to see if does the parent have to approve their going into the program, or if you've identified a student who needs that accelerated math, do we just put it in it, or does the parent have to?
There is a course agreement, so the parent is notified that the child has qualified, and then the parent is brought into the conversation as to what the requirements of the class and commitment are for the program.
Okay, all right, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Oh,
Just
sorry.
one, and you may have already covered this, but would this be kind of like another boutique sort of school where we would just transport all the kids to one location?
It might be, Ms. Villarreal. Again, this is very conceptually at its beginning. It's important. My fear was that as we continued these discussions, that somehow you would be hearing about it without knowing about it. I wanted you all to know as a board first what we're talking about. To go in, but again, when you're looking at these numbers, as you can see, there's just a lot of inefficiencies in it. And our question is there a way to cluster some of this, to give it, because look, a ham class with 1 kid in it or 2 kids in it is not a very good class. They need more interactions, right? So we're looking at bringing that balance again across that scorecard. For our kids, for our staff, for our community, and also in cost savings. So wherever that is, we hope to come back, but it may look like that. Like, again, hypothetically speaking, you could look at a cluster and say, wow, really at that level, there's 26 kids. Well, maybe it makes more sense, but you got to factor in the other family circumstances as well. So there's just a lot of moving pieces that we have to know and go out and start talking with community about, and our teachers.
Well, could you do something, and I'm just saying, not just a math cluster, but you could do advanced English, in the one particular.
Yeah. Right now, we only do hyper-accelerated math at elementary. Right now. We'll see. We got to get these first 2 things. I mean, look, folks, what we rolled out to tonight's a lot of work and a lot of time and energy to go into it, but that, in my opinion, the climb's worth the view here, to make sure that we do it right, get the right input, and bring you guys a correct or a solid recommendation of here's kind of how we can make it all work. But in the end, look, I mean, as you're clustering or doing, somebody always feels like they're getting something right. Now, our hope is that we can kind of explain it in a manner that people understand it, because it's not just simply about money. That's one piece of it. But as you can see through it, it's all the other factors as well as we discuss them.
Is that it? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for the great presentation. Item 10, superintendent comments. Dr. Micah.
Thank you, Madam President. I wanted to let you all know, bring you three things tonight. One is we had a Johnson High School senior by the name of Arthur Miller, scored a perfect 1600 on the SAT exam he took in September. Yeah, I wouldn't have done that. That is very impressive. My hope is to bring that young man back at a future board meeting to recognize. Want to give congratulations to our Tex Hill Middle School Honor Band. This group has been selected as a 2023 Mark of Excellence National Winner. Earning the title of National Winners places our students among the top 25% of all entrants. So congratulations to Tex Hill Band. And then also, I believe I sent this to you all, but it's worth mentioning again, congratulations to Roan Forest Elementary School music teacher Matthew Trevino. For the second year in a row, he was awarded the Country Music Association Foundation Teachers of Excellence Award. That's all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe you could bring him back also, Mr. Trevino.
We could.
To recognize
Sure.
him. All right, number 11, accountability update.
That's me again. So, I hope by now the board and the audience has seen some of the videos I've been putting together about the changes in accountability, right? Just to let you all know, tomorrow, the lawsuit that has been filed by several districts, or many districts across the state, actually has a hearing tomorrow. As a reminder, we are not part of that suit, but I do want to let you know that my staff and I are watching that really closely. Basically, the argument is that districts and schools weren't given the rules prior to the changes, right? So it's interesting to note that the commissioner, as you know, we were supposed to get these ratings a while back, and they've been held because of some changes. And so tonight, I want to share with you what I believe to be correct. Now, I've done the math, and these are not perfect, so like there could be decimal points and things like that that are not. But I want you to understand what these seemingly small changes are doing in accountability. So just as a reminder, there are 4 domains: domains 1, 2A, 2B, and 3. So one of the pieces was domain 2A. That is the growth piece. So we've heard a lot about how the state, and we've talked to you now several times about how the state's calculating growth and how that's changed. So here's some numbers that I wanted to share with you all tonight. So I took a look at some data that the Texas Education Agency released. And I was specifically looking at elementary, middle, and high school data in domains 2A and domain 3, just to see what these changes meant across the state. So in elementary, with the first proposed, so remember, they had a piece where they were going to take 2019 and 2022 and average those and create a cut and do that off of it. Had they kept that thinking, 59% of elementary schools across the state would have been a D or an F. All right? 59%. So then, the agency said, hey, time out. We need to look at this because the commissioner has stated that the 2022 data was anomalous, much more than anticipated. So they've proposed some new changes, which makes elementary schools across the state in domain 2A, 36% of them are D or an F. So I thought, well, that's awfully high. I wonder what that looked like the year prior. Using their own data, I took, that's 9% Ds and Fs last year. So that's a 400% increase in the Ds and Fs across the state by that piece. Then I took a look at middle schools. Again, with their first proposed, 52% of middle schools across the state of Texas would have been a D or an F. With their new adjustments, now that's 34%. But again, I always let's look the last time in 2022 when we got this rating, 18%. So that's a 100% increase. They've doubled it. High schools, we took a look. That went from 38 down to 33 because they're not as affected at that level. Then I took a look at domain 3. Elementary schools, with the changes that what happened with the way that they have these super pops and all of this other stuff that they've done, that, you know, they say, oh, it's not that bad. With their first proposed changes, 45% of elementary schools across the state would have been a D or an F. So they make some adjustments. Now they make it to 31%. But again, got to look past in history, 12%. So almost a 300% increase. Then I took a look at middle schools. With their original proposed 38% were going to be a D or an F. They've now got it to 29, but the year prior was 8. Okay? So over a 300% increase. And then last, because high schools, we've heard a lot about CCMR and how that impacts domain 3. It was 23. Now they've made some adjustments. It actually goes up to 25. The prior year, 7%. So, look, you know, in my videos that staff and I have worked a long time trying to draft and to try to explain this new system, I've said this repeatedly, and I'll say it again. I'm never against assessing kids, and I'm never against accountability. We are all accountable to someone or to something, and schools are no different. But as you can see, not having changes, not understanding the rules of engagement prior to us going down. I mean, we are now, we took those assessments, Anthony, in April, correct? Okay. It's October, and I'm still waiting on the rules. We're still waiting to understand what is actually going to matter. And this is the whole essence of, look, if you're going to make a change, tell the rules, give a year, and then we engage in it. So I just wanted to bring you that. I still don't know anything final. You know, we've heard rumors that there could be no accountability whatsoever now. I don't know what's going to happen. This lawsuit I'm going to be listening to very closely tomorrow to see what comes out of it. So I just thought I'd share those numbers with you because I think they're intriguing.
Thank you for bringing that to us. Item 12, board business. A, possible action regarding 2024 nomination for Bear Appraisal District Board of Directors. So we can nominate or submit names, looks like for up to 5 people, if I'm reading this correctly. And the person that we have now is John Fisher. And Mr. Byer, did you reach out to him?
Yes,
to see if
and Mr. Fisher, who has been on it, this is his 4th year, I think, 3rd, 4th year. He's would like to be our nominee to be appointed again. And I think for sake of continuity, they have a new chief appraiser this year. And I think for sake of continuity and just that he's shows up at all the meetings, he's, I think, the second tenured person now on the appraisal district, or the appraisal board. I think he's represented our district well, and so I'd like to keep him as our nominee. And he actually indicated that he doesn't necessarily think that he will be looking for anything else beyond this term. So we'll have a chance to rotate that out. And I believe it's also now he would only be on for another year. And so this will be coming back to us again, I guess, in a year. So
Okay.
if everybody's okay with that, I'd like to have him on that list.
Okay.
Was that a motion?
I'd like to move to have John Fisher as our nominee for the appraisal district board.
Okay. Did anybody have any other people they would like to nominate? Because it looks like we can do up to 5. No? Okay, so do I have a second to Mr. Byers?
I'll second the motion.
And before we vote, I just, what is the, Sandy, and you've been involved with this the longest, but with 5 people, I guess, I know we've never historically put more than.
No, we have only ever put forth one person.
So
That's mainly because at this point, we no longer have enough votes to automatically have a voice on the appraisal board.
Okay.
So hopefully I know that Mr. Fisher's reputation is well known, and he's very extremely well liked by the other entities, and so hopefully some of them will also support his. And Mr. Villarreal, maybe you can help me. I think it's 834 votes is the minimum to get automatically on. So, and at this point, we don't have that?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah,
Okay.
we're at 700, I think.
I believe in the past, we have asked other districts to either support Mr. Fisher or previous people to make sure that we do. In the past, we did have enough votes to make sure we had a voice there. So I think keeping Mr. Fisher is highly advisable, and I personally would not like to see us split our votes amongst nominees because we could lose our voice entirely then.
Okay.
That's all, just a question I
Yeah.
had. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second to nominate John Fisher as our nominee for the appraisal district. Do I have all those in favor say aye? Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. Item B, discussion and possible action regarding next steps and process for single-member District 2 trustee appointment. We have 2 signed up to speak.
Number 2.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jacqueline Klein. And regarding the vacancy for single-member District 2, as I stated earlier this week, the process for selection for filling this vacancy has become very heavily politicized, and education should not be political. As far as this process goes, transparency is going to be the key to earning the trust of your taxpayers, and so I don't see any other choice but to let this whole thing play out in full view. I think that the board should be able to be accountable for the questions that they ask us as applicants and let the constituents judge us by our answers. After all, that's who we will represent. The people want to hear who we are, they want to hear what we have to say, and so let it come directly from us. The local media has been making a lot of hay of this. I don't think that they're painting the board in a favorable light as being very divided and unable to move this forward, and I certainly don't want the Express News or the San Antonio Report speaking on my behalf with regard to any of my objectives for the district. I wanted an open interview. I was going to ask for that when we all came here last week. The people don't and won't trust what happens if it's behind closed doors. The children of single-member District 2 deserve representation, and they need an advocate on this board. The entire NEISD community is looking to you to lead right now, and so please demonstrate to us that you can. Open the interviews, define your selection criteria, and appoint the seats so that you can get back to the business of board business. Also, before I finish, I would just like to take a second to remind everybody out there, November 7th, we're going to have a constitutional ballot coming up. Proposition 9 is the proposition for a cost of living adjustment for retired teachers. So please go out and vote in favor of that for our teachers. And that was all I wanted to share this evening. Thank you for your time.
Number 3.
Good evening. My name is Richard Aguilar, and I'm a resident of single-member District 7. I'm a native of San Antonio and educated in public schools, and I am who I am because of those of you in this room, parents, community members, you who are the staff of the school district, and board members, even though I went to school in the San Antonio School District back in the day. Robert Frost wrote something about education that I would adapt. It reads, "Education provides capacity to learn without losing one's temper or failing self-confidence." And I hold to that. And I have been to the last open sessions of this board and still come away convinced that my friend Nan Burley Ritchie is the best person to fulfill the unexpired term left by beloved Terry Williams, who passed away last summer. Nan is an excellent human being. She's here in the audience. She's intelligent. She's diligent, a lifelong learner. We've known each other for 51 years, since she was in 8th grade and I was in 10th grade. I do look older. And we've stayed in touch over the years. We've shared about our daughters, who are now grown adults. I prayed at her mother's funeral at Fort Sam Houston National Cemetery. We've been to each other's homes. Nan's older brother served in Vietnam, and her father, Colonel Roy Burley, was a veteran of World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. I'm not sure what that's called, but it certainly is a triple crown. She comes from a family of community engagement and servant leadership. And I would just ask you, as a board and as a community, for those who knew and respected Terry, whom would Terry choose to fulfill this role? I think it would be someone like Nan. I agree with what has been said earlier, but from a different point of view, that this matter can be politicized. I do not agree with open interviews. It's just not a good idea. So I concur with the decisions the board has made. I wonder about organizations outside of this community, some within. Parents United for Freedom, that sounds like a political group. Or Moms for Liberty, that sounds very much like a political group. So, my hope is that you would consider very much the application of my friend Nan Ritchie Burley. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I have done a little bit of research to determine how other organizations have done their interview process since we've had the closed versus open. And I actually, at Windcrest the other morning, spoke with Mayor Dan Reese. And he said that they have filled their vacant seats by doing the interviews in open session. And he said that the way that they have done it is they all came at one time. They sequestered those who were not being interviewed. They took away their phones so that they couldn't get text messages from people in the audience, couldn't be watching the live stream. He said that they drew for the position. So you could either put names in a hat and have, Ms. Turner or somebody draw out the names, or you could put a number in the hat and the individual interview applicants could draw the numbers. Then I had somebody who was familiar with how the city council did their appointment when they had a vacancy, and they selected people in closed session, but that they did do the interviews in open, and then they did discussions in closed session. So I think to that point, it sounds like our process mirrors those two processes. So I think we could do this in open session if we could maybe, ensure that the applicants are not having access to what questions are being asked, what other people are saying. And so I don't know how y'all feel about that, but.
Madam President, it's funny because that's what I wrote down. I'm aligned with that concept because the last time I did 11 points, I cut it down to 6, but the concern of being about that. So I would move that we conduct open session question and answer for candidates. 45 minutes for each candidate. Each trustee can ask at least 2 questions of each candidate, and any trustee can follow up with questions after the answers. Questions are related and focused on board business and comments made by the applicants after applying for SMD2. This is to your point, number 5. Request all candidates show up at the same time and draw names. I just added that per your suggestion. And voluntarily leave all electronic devices, phones, tablets, smartwatches at home or in their vehicle until the interviews are completed, and we provide a room upstairs for them to wait until their turn. And then immediately following the interview, the board will stay and vote in open session with each trustee getting 1 vote. so we can fill who we believe is best to represent the SMT2 vacancy, but it's in alignment with being open. There could be discussion about possibly having a closed deliberation after the open interviews if we wanted to amongst the trustees, but that was the 6 steps I wrote down for us to consider as a motion, kind of aligned with the community transparency and accountability.
The one thing that I'm not sure I agree with is voting that night. I don't know that I would want to rush. I might feel like I would rather think about it based on the interviews, but I mean, I would like to hear from other people to see what you're thinking about the whole process.
I think it would be imperative to have some type of closed discussion after the interviews. And I'll be very open with, I have supported these interviews in closed because it's worked very well for us in the past. But also this time brings up not only the political issues, but there, as y'all know from our emails, we've received some very embarrassing information about one of the candidates, and that's not something I would have been comfortable discussing in open. I think those issues can be discussed privately and responded to privately. I don't feel that there's a need to do that. But they are important questions to be asked of these candidates.
I think we need to focus on board business and what's in the comments the applicants have made. Trying to make it personal, I would disagree, and I think the information you're referring to is anonymous. So
No. I'm not referring to the anonymous one. I've made it very clear that I do not hold any value to anonymous comments. No, these were emails that we received that had some very disturbing information that I think needs to be questioned and responded to. I see no need to, I think it's important to hear the answers to these questions.
I believe at this point, open interviews is the right and appropriate choice so that there's transparency and accountability to the community. They get to know the candidates, and there can be no questions of the questions we ask and the responses, and then we can make a fair evaluation whether we vote that night or wait. We can have the conversation. I know that there is a need to make a decision. Even Representative Gervin Hawkins in her letter said leaving the board seat vacant for a protracted period of time presents a problem. Maybe we can make a short timeline decision. And she also mentioned the lack of transparency is a great concern. So I think it has to be an open session, and whether or not we vote that night, that can be debated, but I think it has to be an open, and the other stuff about the 45 minutes, question and answers and follow-ups is critically important, in my opinion, and that we focus on what their role as a trustee, as a public servant is, and then their comments they've made related to this application, in my opinion.
So, can we look at our calendar to see when we're available are we as a board available next Monday, October 16th? Or
yes, ma'am.
Or Wednesday the 18th or Thursday the 19th, and try and get those interviews back done next week. We have a special board meeting on the 23rd.
Okay.
So we could, if we can get the interviews done next week, then we could take action and vote at that special board meeting on the 23rd. It's board training, but couldn't we take action at the very?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
I am available to make the 16th, 18th, or 19th, assuming the 4 candidates are available.
Well, and that's what we would have to do. So I think we as a board need to see which dates were available, and then we will do it like we did last time, where Ms. Turner reached out and made sure that they were all available on the same day. And then if they weren't, then so can we pick 2 or 3 dates next week where we're available, and then see where we go from there?
The only day I'm unavailable is on the 16th on Monday.
You're not
Unavailable.
Okay. So the 18th and 19th.
I'm available.
I'll make myself available.
I'm good.
I'm sorry, David?
I'm good.
Ms. Huey?
Yes.
Okay, so we will say the 18th or 19th, and we will have Ms. Turner reach out to the 4 individuals. And so then the process will be, they will all come at 5:30. They will, do we want them to draw for their place, or do we want the
Yes.
name? So we will put numbers in a hat and each of them. So are we going to draw to see who draws first?
Sorry, to back up, I
Yes.
just realized that I'm not available the 18th.
Okay, so the
I'm
19th.
sorry.
That's
Sorry
okay.
about that.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they could each draw their own names. I don't know if the order matters or not, or they can figure it out amongst themselves. Kind of like the candidate orientation. I think that's for the elections, we just draw names. I'm not
Could we just go in alphabetical order? Would that be easier?
alphabetical order.
Or whoever gets there first. You
I
know?
think- No, they all have to be together at the same
They all
time.
have to be together. Okay, so
What about just alpha? That just solves it all.
Well, if
I'm
she
not sure
can-
what the, I think you had the alpha order earlier. I'm not sure.
yeah,
Well, if we
I
go
just think it
with
could be random.
names in the hat, then we don't have to worry about the alphabetical.
Right, so we'll
order.
put names in the hat and then draw, and then, are y'all okay with Ms. Turner drawing the names out of the hat?
Yeah.
Then
Yep.
that is who go first, second, third, fourth.
Yep.
Okay. And then, if they walk in with their phone, we'll kindly put it in a basket with Ms. Turner,
Yes,
and we'll have a room upstairs for them.
with some water and snacks or whatever's
Yeah,
appropriate.
so watches.
We're in cost containment now. Easy on the snacks.
Okay, very affordable snacks.
Bring your own sandwich.
I would bring my own.
Bring your own sandwich.
I'll pay for it out of my own pocket.
Can we also include like the smartwatches and things like this need
Sure.
to be put aside?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I would hope that once our candidates understand the need for this, that they would be, hopefully, I think they'll all be very responsive to understanding that phones, watches, anything else should, yeah.
Okay.
Pagers.
Okay, so I'll make the motion if you want.
And before you make, a couple of things I want to make
Yeah.
sure of is that this process doesn't necessarily, I know you mentioned we kind of each have maybe two basic questions and
Yeah.
there's room for follow-up.
Absolutely.
Based on the answers and whatever we want. But I want to make sure that, that there is some flexibility that if there's, if not necessarily a follow-up question, but a question I think of while we're at these interviews, that we're all able to ask those questions.
I would agree. I mean,
and not limit it to that. And honestly, if it's 45 minutes becomes 55 minutes, I think I want to allow the candidates the time to answer those
I'm good with that.
questions as well. I
Yeah,
mean,
I said-
granted, we don't want to drag it out for 3-hour interviews, but I want to give them time to express their objectives, their ideas, their thoughts, and us time to be able to ask those questions and follow up.
Agreed. No, we'll schedule for 45 minutes with flexibility, and we can each ask at least 2 questions, but if there's more that are appropriate or come up with follow-ups, absolutely, I agree that we need to have those conversations, so. So I guess with that, I would just move to conduct open session question and answers for candidates on 19 October, pending scheduling availability, scheduled for 45 minutes for each candidate with flexibility for time. Every trustee can ask at least 2 questions of each candidate, and any trustee can follow up on any of the questions if there's more. Questions focused to the board business and the comments made by the applicants. As previously stated, all the candidates show up at 5:30. Mrs. Turner will draw the names with all of them present, and then they will leave all electronic devices either at home or in a basket up there and wait upstairs until their turn. And then we could schedule a vote for the next special on the 23rd? The 23rd of October.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Yeah, I think Sandy said he left, but you can't. Is he still here? Is our Boy Scout still in the audience? No. Okay. Yeah.
I know.
Sorry about that.
Probably getting a merit badge.
He was.
This young man, his name was Peter Vega. He is an 8th grader over at Driscoll, and he was working on his communication merit badge.
Okay.
So hopefully he earns his badge.
We'll give it to him.
There are way more exciting merit badges than that one, so I was going to say it.
Okay, item 13, new business for possible board action. A, board policy. 1, possible action regarding changes to board policy DEC local. Mr. Mitchell. Dr. Mitchell, I'm sorry.
Madam President, Board, Dr. Mike, Executive Staff, and guests, we'd like to bring for your approval proposed changes to Board Policy DEC Local. That is where additional mental health days, paid leave days, are for our police officers. It was also extended to our telecommunicators, which we found out was dispatchers as well.
Does anybody have any questions about this? Okay, do I have a motion to approve the proposed revisions of DEC local as presented?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Byer. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Landry. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, the motion carries. Item B, Instruction and Campus Administration. 1, possible action regarding 2024-2025 proposed MacArthur Early College High School. Mr. Jarrett.
Thank you, Madam President. Dr. Mike, and members of the board, executive staff, and guests, I would like to ask Dr. Munoz to come forward for this agenda item.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Micah, executive staff, and guests. Today, we are very, very happy to present to you the opportunity that I think will take our district to the next level, which is our proposal for an early college and career academy that will be held at MacArthur High School. So again, in line with our district scorecard, we are looking at supporting students in a multitude of ways to make sure that we nurture their learning. We are also looking at investing in our staff and our employees for their professional growth, making sure that we collaborate with students and families and community members to support learning, and then we also plan to manage funds and resources responsibly by making fiscally responsive decisions. So this timeline actually happened last year. It began September 2022, and the reason for that is because in order for any early college high school to go through the launching process, they have to go through a coaching year. An application has to be submitted to TEA, and then they look at the opportunities that that particular district has, and then they say, yes, you are approved to go through the coaching year. At that point in time, we also submitted, in December of that same year, we submitted an application for a LASSO grant, which would give us some additional funding to help support the program if in case we were to establish the ECHS. In March and April, we received a notice of that grant, and we actually received the notice of application approval for the planning year. By July 2023, we were approved to hire an ECHS administrator to help support the coaching and support the MOU establishment, the conversations that had to happen with IHEs. And then in August, we began the discussion with local institutions because we wanted to be able to make sure that if we are going to create a program, that the majority of the courses that are taken by those kids that are in the ECH classes, that they're transferable to any Texas public school university. Then now we are here to explain the program and then also the foundation of the why behind this particular proposal, and then our next steps and what that will look like. So currently we have a program called MacUp. It's been around for a while. Currently we have about 100 students that are enrolled. 9th and 10th grade we have about 70. 11th grade we have 20, and 12th grade we have 10. That is a UTSA partnership. It is a CTE education pathway, but the students earn 24 college credit hours. It's in alignment with UTSA with their current school, so ultimately if any of those courses only tied to the UTSA university program, that's the only classes that would be applicable to that if it aligns with their bachelor's degree. When we're looking at an associate's degree through the ECHS program, it's about us reestablishing what is currently there, understanding the foundation, honoring that foundation, but then reestablishing it so that way we're able to give more students the opportunity for more dual credit college hours. So we're looking at shifting over from UTSA potentially, we're still not tied to either one, and looking at a San Antonio college partnership, primarily because of House Bill 8, and I'll go over that in a little bit. We may actually get our kids to earn up to 60 dual credit college hours through that associate's degree completion. We can enroll about 600 students within a course of 4 years. And then this particular academy, the reason why it's so different than any other ECHS is because it is directly tied to the CTE program. So the students would not only earn their associate's degree, they'd also earn an industry-based certification in that field of study. So they can actually go to work in that field while they're already 2 years into college, finishing up their junior, senior year for their bachelor's degree in any Texas public school. So looking at expanding college access, making sure that we have that post-secondary education, 42 to 60, which is your, the majority is your core subject areas are transferable to any four-year university. We want to be able to provide an ECHS that is primarily tied to industry demands. So the latest information that we received from the Alamo Region Texas Workforce Commission includes that there is a substantial need for financial managers, food service and lodging managers, accountant, loan officers, elementary, middle, and high school teachers, which we already know, chefs, head cooks, bookkeepers, accounting, audit clerks, the list goes on and on and on. And so one of the things that we wanted to do is not only be able to provide that ECHS opportunity for our students, but also engage them with industry partners and even an on-the-job opportunity where they can actually work alongside some of our schools to earn some of those hours towards their course completion. So there are a multitude of demands industry-wise that we could definitely connect this particular program to. So in looking at a workforce pipeline, we wanted to make sure that we provide an opportunity for something that's very innovative. One of the things that has not been established within our area is what we call lab schools. And so a lab school, instead of a student going to a university to go through that process, they would actually be go through almost like an onboarding where they'd learn about education, learn about the theory of education and childhood development, go through the whole process of what is a lesson plan, how do you create a lesson from start to finish. That is by far probably one of the most difficult things that new teachers have is when they are going into this industry. They go in with, I'm going to save the world. We know that we're going to teach every child and they're all going to be successful. But then all of these little things and intricacies that they don't really cover, during your time at the university, you start to really get wind of it and say, oh my gosh, now I have to reestablish some of the things that I wanted to do, some of the things I have to do. And if they are part of our particular program, they'd actually be able to use our elementary campuses as lab sites to learn about these things, to learn about the PLC process, to learn about how they can look at that individual planning guide or that instructional planning guide that teacher would use for that grade level. So everything from data to all of those great things would be integrated in this lab school. Industry experience, we have a lot of industry partners that are currently part of our business and industry council as well, who are very eager to get students into the field of study, into hospitality, tourism, culinary arts. It's not just about providing that particular certification, it's about putting the student in the scenario where they're actually engaging with customers in the hospitality side, making sure that they can also expand that opportunity. So if, let's say, for example, they do go in through the business and industry side, they can have these different options, just like they would with education. We're looking at expanding that as well. So investing in our staff, when a teacher is one of our own NEISD teachers and they are now in partnership with or they get hired through San Antonio College, they receive a stipend for every single course that they teach. So if we have a particular teacher that is teaching 4 sections of dual credit, then those 4 sections would get paid for by San Antonio College. It would not be an additional fee from us because they are one of our employees. We do have the opportunity also for possible external funding because there are some pretty amazing grant opportunities that we would like to definitely apply for to continue to expand the program and to continue to fund the program as it grows. And then also we want to make sure that we provide that level of engagement with professional development opportunities with our IHE partners. They're very intrigued with public schools and they want to be able to find their way to be able to support the teacher or education pipeline. And ultimately, we're taking the stance that we're trying to create something that's very unique and very relevant to our communities. It's not about fitting our programs into colleges or universities. It's about having them fit what we would like our students to have access to. And they've been very receptive to those conversations. So the fiscal responsibility here and the cost sharing agreement with Alamo Colleges, because of House Bill 8, We are looking at this particular funding option that we laid out, primary learning environment, which is of no cost, which I had explained to y'all. Option 2 is if there is less than 80% of the students are from the academy, it would be $100 per student per course. And then option 3 would be that if it is more than 80% of the class are from the academy, then it would be $112 per student per course. Now, this would be of no cost to the families or to the students. However, there could be a very serious reduction in the cost because of House Bill 8. And so House Bill 8 is actually providing colleges it's basically codifying the cost that colleges would have to implement or give to districts if they are pursuing an associate's degree. We want to be able to make sure that that associate's degree can be applicable to the business side, to the education side, but we are integrating that CTE experience and IBC to be able to build that student's resume and also to be able to set those programs apart so they don't mirror one another. And then also instructional materials, which can be very expensive. That is actually free for anybody who is part of the early college high school system. So automatically when a student signs up for a course, they click on the course and it's through Alamo Books, and you select the link and that book is downloaded onto your computer and you have access to everything that course needs based on the syllabus the professor has and so on and so forth. There are also some pretty amazing experiences, I think, that in the recent years early college high schools have revamped. One of the things that obviously we have to go through the process of board approval, but then also the school design is very unique. They're looking at very specific design structures, more so, yes, we have policies and leadership teams, but student support programs are essential. For a student to go through 4-year graduation, 9 through 12, and then complete an associate's degree is a tremendous feat. And so one of the things that they have actually built in is that academic infrastructure where not only do we have that IHE partner, but we also have a support system for the students, the academic support system at the campus. The partnerships work side by side, so the way that a student will receive support at the school, at our academy, they would also receive that same type of support at the college. And then also providing those wraparound strategies and services to support the students and the families as well, because it does take a lot of time, a lot of practice, and a lot of this is my schedule. When I go home, this is what I have to focus on. I have to get all of my assignments done. Because there is that deadline at midnight or at 8 a.m., whatever the professor says. And so one of the things that we want to make sure is that we want to make sure that those students are going to be successful and finish that associate's degree. Our target populations, it is an open lottery that requires that the student body be representative of our district as a whole. So we would look alongside all of our percentages, economically disadvantaged and at-risk percentages, and we would have to be as close to that percentage as possible by at least 25%. So if we are at 50% economically disadvantaged, we could accept 25% economically disadvantaged in that cohort of 150 students coming into the early college program. So in order for TEA to actually give that designation, if board approved and we start this process, they also have very distinct accountability measures that we have to be able to adhere to as well. So if you notice there, 30% of the students earn at least 9 college credits by the end of their 10th grade year. That is actually going alongside their high school career, yes. So those particular requirements actually are the foundation of this particular designation. If you end up as a distinguished early college high school, you up that percentage by 10. So 30% going to 40% of our students would earn at least 9 college credits. We've been working on a crosswalk to ensure that the majority of our students would hit every single benchmark that is listed here, but we have to at least meet 3 of these particular listed outcomes in order to be able to continue with the designation of early college high school. So looking ahead, we're looking at finalizing an MOU by the end of this school year, making sure that we are able to establish that crosswalk from 9th grade all the way through 12th grade. recruiting students as well, making sure that we provide bridge opportunities. So summer bridge opportunities are very, very important so that way the student is either preparing for the TSIA, which is that college entrance exam, which is tied directly to CCMR. They're getting to know one another. They develop a support system. It's a time for community, for unity, for those students to be able to say, we're going to get through this together. And the staff is actually very much connected to that. College preparation, obviously for TSIA, and then also summer school. There may have to be some opportunities that we have to provide summer school so a student will be able to finish their high school diploma as well as finish their associate's degree. And then potentially fall 2024, we would begin our first 9th grade cohort. First dual credit coursework would actually begin either fall or spring of their freshman year. So are there any questions?
I am so excited.
Me too.
This is amazing. So let me ask you a question. Is there, so right now it's going to be on a lottery basis.
Mm-hmm.
Is there, at some point in this, is there going to be a way to include other people? Because I really hate to see kids get left behind.
So primarily early college high school is for first generation college students with a priority also to economically disadvantaged or at-risk students, right?
Mhm.
But essentially it being an open lottery, we also have to look at the percentages that our district is at with eco-dis at risk. It may not necessarily be maybe first generation, but if the student is economically disadvantaged, that percentage, we'd have to make sure that we adhere to that. But having an open lottery system, you can include everyone as opposed to only select groups. And it could be dependent on that. Let's say, for example, if a certain percentage of that acceptance is a certain percentage, it's because we have to adhere to that percentage based on TEA guidelines. So it's that 25%.
But
that
it
we
can
cannot-
grow? The lottery can grow at some point?
We're hopeful, yes. We're hopeful.
I've got two pragmatic questions. One, for any of the students who are enrolled in this, they will be, for all practical purposes, a MAC student, and extracurriculars, if they have time to do it, they may be very busy, would be as a MAC student, not their home campus, if they're from other parts of the district. Is that correct?
Yes, because that would essentially become their
Their-
campus.
that's their home campus,
Yes,
right? That's-
they're
they-
tied to that particular
Right.
org.
And then is there enough room in their schedules to do that? That's 9 credits by the end of the freshman year. I mean, that's a tight, but there's room academically in their schedules to meet all the requirements, we believe?
Yes, absolutely. And
Okay.
I think it's important that we also talk about the fact that if a student wants to have that elective class or that sport, because sometimes that is their out, you
Mhm.
know, they sometimes
Absolutely.
need that for that balance. We definitely want to encourage those students to still pursue that particular elective course. They would just probably have to change up how they go to that particular course. It may be after school, it may be before school, it may be at a different time during the day. They could work alongside their elective teachers, because I know their elective teachers would want them to participate as well.
But there's flexibility for them to do extracurriculars as well, because I know that for some of them
Yes.
it is that balance and outlet. Okay,
So
those are my
Mr. Hilliard,
questions.
I want to add to that. So right now with MACUP, the students have to go to UTSA, which limits some of their abilities to participate in extracurricular activities. So this plan is actually our highest hope is to hire most, if not all, of the dual credit teachers to actually be assigned right there at MAC High School, which garners them access to multiple points of inclusion within their own home campus. The other piece, to Dr. Mignot's point, is that the Summer Bridge program that can happen each summer will allow kids to accelerate some of those elective courses that maybe they need for graduation purposes, but not necessarily tied to an associate's degree. So that way, they can strike that balance of taking care of their associate's degree and still being a kid at the same time. So they've already crosswalked all of that to create a path so that kids can be able to do most of the things that they want to.
One of the questions I had was about the, I guess, the interest in this. I know we have MAC up there already, and there's roughly 100 students, or there are 100 students. And then adding this sort of business hospitality portion to it. And if we've got some of those kids already in MAC up, do they count towards the 150 that we would bring in over the next 4 years? Or is that something that's different?
So we would not stop these kiddos from completing the program. It's still aligned to an education program, and really the courses are the exact same. So we would just basically pull them into this program of study. So it wouldn't hurt them at all. It actually would give them more access earlier on. Like our current MAC-UP students that are in 9th grade will actually garner more courses their sophomore year, because right now MAC-UP only supports 11th and 12th grade
Junior,
college
senior.
courses right now. So I think
Right, so.
So I think Mr. Byers' question is, there's 100 people. Are we
Already.
counting those 100 and we're only taking 50 more? Or
So-
are we going to, these 100 are going to finish out, but we're going to open it for a different 150?
yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So the MAC-UP folks will basically finish their,
Yes.
Yes.
what they're doing
absolutely.
now with maybe some minor modifications.
Yeah,
to it, but,
and that number really comes from space, and really we don't know the absolute. Again, we're in the planning stage, but we feel like 300 in each, the education program and 300 in business program would match the 600 total.
okay. Because I know that 150 is generally sort of a mark with a lot of them, I'm going to call some magnet, but other magnet programs, that there's, that 150 always seems to be kind of the magic number.
Yeah.
But, and so then gauging the interest for that business hospitality, what information do we have that says, hey, we're going to be able to, we're going to have
So,
this number of kids?
I mean, we would definitely have to go the recruiting route and showcasing some of those programs. A lot of students who say, I want to go into education, let's just say, for example, they want to be a teacher, but they don't know all the other pathways that teaching could eventually take them to: administrative work, counseling, coaching, curriculum leadership. All of those things are going to be integrated in the education, so that's kind of how we want to phase into that. But with the business and industry side, we're looking at the possibility of culinary arts infused with accounting, infused with business, finance, starting a business, food trucks. You know, all of these great things that are very relevant, that a lot of students hear business and they really do not engage with that side as well. It's about the recruitment and how we do say these are opportunities.
So I think your question is, because I'm trying to listen and make sure, is how much interest do we have in this program?
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Here's the thing. We have interest across the district in our culinary arts and different types of these programs. One of the things that Mr. Jarrett and I have done, because I drag him along to these, is for the last 2 years, again, you all have approved cyber, you approved CETA, right, in aerospaces, what I call scanning our terrain, looking across our area and saying, where are high demand, high paying careers right now that there is a void in? There is a giant void here. I will tell you, and I can't say who it is, but Mr. Jarrett and I happened to be at a convention downtown, I think it was SLI, and attended a session with some local industry people. Started to talk to them, not really about an early college high school, but just kind of about the industry. And their piece was, I will be your champion. Because we are absolutely dying for kids to come into this field. And the problem is, just like the story I always tell about cyber, do you remember how much cyber interest I had? Almost none. Because what we know is, and it's like, look, man, my son will be mad, I'm sorry. He doesn't know what he wants to be. Most kids, they think they do, but they really don't, right? So this is yet another option to go in. Hey, and if you don't pursue the hospitality type area, that's fine. Your business will port to what we always discuss as the lattice. It's just because it's focused here doesn't mean you have to go that route. But those skills can go. So again, cyber doesn't just go into, it goes into banking, it goes into to flying airplanes, you name it, right? Those things go everywhere. That's really those types of things that we're doing. So do I have a number that I can give you tonight? No. Can I tell you across the district we have lots of classes going on with interest? Yes. Yeah. Will we need to inform our parents? Yes. That's
Sure.
what the lesson we've learned is we really need to teach our parents about it, because that's why we say you can't be what you can't see. If a parent doesn't know that industry and isn't aware of the career fields, we got to educate them so that they can have a good conversation with their child about, yeah, you do have kind of that interest, right? Maybe this is something you wish to pursue. I know they've done a lot of work on this. This has been years in the making, and this early college high school was kind of the vehicle to get us there, I guess, in a sense.
Well, and I think also having that, especially in a transition period of that what happens to MAC-UP versus what happens to these students.
Correct.
Like when we went from KSAT to CETA or ETA to CETA, making sure that those students that are in those programs know what their paths are and what they can do.
And there's a local there's a local higher ed institution that's pushing into this area.
Yeah, and Mr. Byer, this program took in consideration 3 entities, and one being education, because we need to invest in our own profession, okay? The second is the business industry, which is pretty diverse in its offerings and course selections, because and then you get an associate's degree, the probability of you completing a 4-year degree increases. But there's this other side, which is the career choice, and that's what Dr. Mike is talking about, the lattice. There are opportunities for kiddos to go into the hospitality industry and earn a decent wage and living by getting into the field and engaging in the work. And so by partnering with industry partners, offering access to an associate's degree in business, it really diversifies a student's portfolio that they can go different directions at any point in time. And so that's really what makes this program a little more unique than a traditional early college. That's why you see early college and career, because we really want to prepare kids for the workforce just as much as the educational field.
And just on that, one of the things, as you all well know, over 50% of our student body is considered on free and reduced lunch or low socioeconomic. This is a great area in which you can go through, basically earn half of a bachelor's degree and cost you nothing. That's truly setting a child on a different pathway, right, in their life. And so that's that component of it that makes sense for us. And you and your team have done a lot of work navigating this, because again, to the pieces, it begins with kind of looking at teachers, because we all know we need teachers. We've had that discussion earlier. So now not only are we trying to build our own through paraprofessionals, but we're trying to get them real young. And, and if they don't choose that path, so be it, right? But they're going to get a really robust exposure. It's a great opportunity to use some of our local schools as a true model. Mr. Jarrett and I actually went to my alma mater and toured those types of classrooms. There's a lot of potential down the line for this to grow and expand.
Just a side note, and Mr. Hernandez will say, when we were at the campus, we called a few students in that's currently enrolled in MAC-UP, and we said, you can't say anything, but we just want to kind of get a pulse on what you think. And Mr. Hernandez will probably tell you that both of those students says, why didn't you give this to me when I was here? Because they're graduating seniors. And so really they got excited about the potential of the program, and that was when we kind of knew we were headed down the right road.
And I assume by that statement the school feels like they have a voice in this whole thing and are not just saying, hey, by the way, I know we have our good friend Mr. Hernandez nodding his head. He's good. You mentioned the UTSA MOU, and that still sounds like it's in flux. I mean, obviously you've been having discussions with them.
Yeah. So we've met with everyone.
Yes.
In the city of San Antonio, and we actually even had a Zoom call with Mac, myself, Dr. Munoz, and many others, along with UTSA and Alamo College. And we're still trying to broker partnerships, because we still feel like there's a space, perhaps, and a place for UTSA to partner, but we have to make sure we complete the associate's degree. And so we were trying to be pretty creative to even do a little bit of both, but it's kind of an awkward dance, but we're still going to keep on trying to listen to the music a little bit, see if we get there.
And then some of those specialty classes like culinary, those you'd still have that offered for the students that are at MacArthur that just want to take it as an elective, and would it be something that would be a little more robust that other students might look at and say, oh, I want to?
So that's why I said proxy, because essentially the kiddos are getting associates in business, and then they'll have access to the culinary and other programs. So if they want to open their own restaurant, because what we don't want to do is just say, you're going to just go into labor force, but really showing them how they can actually own their own business at the same time if they go down that road, or they can learn the skills and trades within that industry.
And should this get off, we've got a plan to do something pretty cool. should this get moving. I just don't want to tip our hand in the public yet, but it's a pretty unique idea that brings a real life experience to the students that would choose that path.
One thing, I have loved Mac Up from day one. I think it's just been a phenomenal program, and I've had such a wonderful opportunity to meet a lot of these students, and we've done a wonderful job there, and congrats to the Mac campus for what they've done. I think the important part for me in this, I love this business opportunity, particularly the culinary arts, the hospitality, that feeds right into the San Antonio workforce. But I think having that business part of it is going to be vital. Like you were saying, yes, we can provide maybe low-level, but I want them reaching for those upper levels of hospitality, culinary, whatever. We've got great culinary people at our campuses already. That Mac chef is pretty darn good. But I think the opportunity that this would offer from a business standpoint for these students as they get into these fields is going to be invaluable. Because like you were saying, if they don't choose the culinary arts, they've still got the business skills to go somewhere else. So I think that whole double-sided piece of it's great.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, do I have a motion to approve the implementation of an early college high school at MacArthur High School starting the 2024-2025 school year?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Villarreal. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Byer. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion
Thank you.
carries.
Say hey.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Munoz. Item 2, possible action regarding School Health Advisory Council recommendations for edited HSAE instructional materials for 6th grade council. And we have Mr. Kamen.
Good
How are ya?
evening. Good evening.
evening.
Madam Grona, members of the board, Dr. Micah, executive staff and guests. Thank you very much for having us here this evening. We're going to address any questions you might have or concerns on the recommended edits for the 6th grade human sexuality and abstinence education and abuse prevention instructional materials. At this time, I'm going to like to call on Ben Elliott, the chair of the Classroom Health and Sex Ed Chase Standing Committee. We have most all the other members of the Chase Committee as well. And Ben is going to present the recommendation that has been edited for the HSAE curriculum for 6th grade.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Micah, who will presumably be back, executive staff and guests. It's been a while since I've been in front of you all, so I'm glad to see you all again. Back at hard work, we got some new members on the SHAC, and they've been valuable contributions to both SHAC as a whole and our Chase committee. So thank you all for the hard work you put into selecting members as well. We're going to do a little bit different way of presenting tonight and not go through item by item, lesson by lesson. Got some community feedback that we should probably shorten that a little. So we'll just go with the background here on May 8th. As y'all recall, this committee presented the Choosing the Best Curriculum as our recommendation to be adopted by any ISD for middle school and high school health, human sexuality and abstinence education, which you all adopted our recommendation on that. And then in June, we followed up with presenting our edited high school version of that, which again was adopted. So here, we're just going to kind of touch over some of the high points. Again, just as a little bit of a recap, our recommendation was based off of not using all of the printed materials available directly from the publisher, but rather making some recommended and edited NEISD-specific student note-taking guides, which could be custom tailored for each student based on their opt-in permission. These will be given out daily. Also, these will include parent engagement interview portions so that every lesson has a take-home aspect where the student can engage their parents. Also, NEISD created or edited, based off the curriculum, printed materials, teacher leader guides. These are the scripted basic, what the teacher will say, walk through with each student, with activity directions and teacher scripts. Then there's also the digital aspect, which is the videos and slideshows that go with each lesson. There to the right, you'll note, I know you all received the email, just a quick follow-up, the yellow, anything highlighted in yellow in the curriculums is what we edited. Strike through is something that we suggested to delete. Green was something we suggested to be added to meet a TEAC specifically. And red text was strike through, was suggested video edits. Back to the process. The process of editing this was led by the Classroom Health and Sex Ed Committee. Chase met approximately 5 times on this 6th grade level to review, discuss, finalize edits. There was also a Zoom meeting that we did, or a Teams meeting that we did one Sunday night. Recommended edits included video edits that the publisher will make on our behalf, digital teacher tools, slide edits, teacher script edits, student activity modifications, and the order of the lessons, the order that they're presented in. I'm going just to touch on some of the more noteworthy edits that we are recommending for this level. Obviously, the big understanding key message, which was a high point, which part of our recommendation for the program as a whole, which is the reiteration of abstinence from all forms of sexual activity when used consistently and correctly is the only 100% effective method in preventing STDs, including HIV and AIDS, pregnancy, and the emotional trauma associated with adolescent sexual activity, which we created to mirror 28004 and its requirements on that. The video segments, there were a few video segment edits and teacher scripts. Also, the kind of lead-in of the teacher script, that's what that's referring to, prior to the video. Let's see, I'm going to try to read that to you all. This is the one about not all students are having sex. Well, I can't find it. Let's see. Forgive me for my, oh, here we go. Not all teenagers are having sex. In fact, teens having sex are in the minority. But this video features some teens who discuss having had sex so that you can better understand the possible outcomes of sexual activity. So that's a common theme throughout as sort of a lead-in, say, for the teachers prior to showing the videos. Then the teacher's note regarding inclusivity, which is at the beginning of every lesson, which gives the teacher the note that says these lessons or these key teaching points apply to all teens, regardless of sexual orientation or gender identity. And then the teacher training on handling of sensitive issues in lessons or questions, which basically will include how a teacher will address being asked sensitive questions. They'll be guided to answer out of the curriculum, out of TEACs, and if it goes beyond TEACs, they'll be directed to seek the guidance of a parent, guardian, or trusted adult. Little summary of the noteworthy changes. Probably one of the most drastic changes was the reordering of the lessons. The reason we suggested this, lesson 3, is the way it was presented. It led into sexual violence and some unintended consequences of sex. It kind of introduced it in somewhat of what we felt as a jarring way early in the program, whereas we found that lesson 5 was more of an abstinence-centered introduction. It was more of a segue into the actual sexual content of the curriculum, lesson 5 was, so we suggested moving it to being the 3rd lesson so that it sort of presents the idea of abstinence, which is the central focus of what is required for HSE curriculum by the state of Texas. So the reordering is basically surrounded or based around. Is the edited book in the new order? Okay. Yeah, there we go. So we actually now are calling lesson 5, old lesson 5 is lesson 3 in the edited book that you guys saw.
So basically, it just sort of flows a little bit better.
It flows quite a bit better. That's correct. Yeah. So coming into lesson 3, which was lesson 5, you're getting that abstinence. You're getting more of the choosing the best way, which is the title of the curriculum, right? So yeah. And then lesson 4 kind of talks about the consequences of sexual activity, being teenage pregnancy, STDs, and then what was lesson 3. Gets into choices and the risks of sexual violence, which is introduced. Let's see. All right. Lesson 6 had another relatively drastic change where there was a video and a script that accompanies the video regarding sexting. The way it was presented, the video that was used was, first of all, it was a little bit outdated. It was using old style phones. It didn't really relate. It didn't feel relatable to the age group of our students. And the script that went along with it, we felt was a little not age appropriate for 6th grade, I guess in other words. If y'all reviewed it, you'll see it all lined out, the script where Jesse and Philip presented their piece of the video. It was a little bit, we believed a little bit too far advanced for a 6th grader. It was suggested, I believe Katie suggested there was a video that had been previously approved by the SHAC for health curriculum because digital citizenship, kind of sexting, online security is actually a TEAC strand that isn't necessarily a opt-in. It's TEAC strand 13, which isn't necessarily a HSAE strand. So there already was a digital security, if you will, sexting video that doesn't have a script. It shows some stops and some asks some questions. It shows a girl typing on her phone. I don't know if y'all had a chance to review it. So our recommendation was to remove the choosing the best sexting video and the accompanying script and replacing it entirely with this other video. And as you saw, there's still some ask and answers. We just edited those to be more appropriate to the video that we're suggesting be put in place. This slide here is just catching a couple of edits that we realized we overlooked after submitting the edited PDFs to y'all for review, which was just for some consistency things all throughout, all the lessons, all the grade levels, even in high school. We had previously recommended removing the conversation around leading a discussion because we wanted to make it clear for all the teachers that we are sticking to a scripted program, and lead a discussion in most cases is replaced with ask the questions or say and answer. So these are a couple that slipped through. We overlooked these couple before y'all were presented with the PDFs. So these 2 examples right here are just going back and recommending a correction to the lead a discussion aspects. From there, we would like to invite you all to, if you have any questions, feel free. This is the time we'll question and answer with y'all, but we are recommending to y'all to approve our recommended edits for the 6th grade HSAE program from Choosing the Best as presented to y'all this evening.
Does anyone have questions?
I just have one question on lesson 6. So all throughout the lessons, you have the TEACs and the references, and this was the only one I noticed that had some strike through in what appears to be the TEACs. So are those not the TEACs?
Can you say what page that is? Because
70 and 71.
Are you talking about in the very beginning of the lesson, like in the teacher's notes aspect? So all of the highlighted portion where you see the 13, those we actually requested to be added as a guide to what TEKS, because the question was initially asked what HSAE TEK is sexting even relevant to, which the answer is it's not. It's relevant to basically a digital citizenship and security safety TEK. So we added those all there. The reason we struck through pornography, social media posts were not, because we're not really talking about it in this, and then pornography was something that we had previously opted in previous curriculums to not introduce because it's not required by the TEKS. Does anybody have anything to add to that? No?
So to follow up on that, because that was one of my questions. So I was curious why that was in yellow and not in green, because the very first thing said if you were adding TEKS, it would be in green. Did I?
So in the green, so that is, so whenever we added a lesson content, like a script or an activity, or the adding to meet a TEK is what we used in green. That's
so this wasn't added to meet a TEK.
Correct. This is just kind of describing what TEKS the lesson touches on for the teacher. So this isn't even something that the students see. This is really just for the teacher.
If I may, choosing the best didn't include those. Sexting, I guess they kind of overlooked adding those TEKs. So because it does address sexting, those were the actual TEKs that correspond.
Okay.
Right.
All right. Thank you.
Any others? No, they're being too easy on us tonight.
I have one question about when we talk about we recommend talking to parent, guardian, or trusted adult, and I guess from a district perspective, if the teacher is that student's trusted adult, are we able to support that teacher and give them the tools they need to be able to talk to that student and not get themselves run afoul of one of the various legislative pieces of legislature that
I'm not sure if that question is directed for our committee or for.
Not necessarily. I think it's more of a district.
Right.
But we say it in there, a trusted adult, and so I guess I was just jumping to the next sort of idea of okay, well, are we supporting our teachers who may end up being a trusted adult who gets faced with that particular situation?
So we have reviewed the law with all of our health teachers about the requirement to essentially not guarantee anonymity or that they can't keep it necessarily private if a student brings that by law. So unfortunately, or fortunately, however, we have to train them on that, which we have as part of our curriculum training. So we just warn them, warn the student, I can't keep this confidential if you're asking me, because if you tell me something that I am required to report, I will have to do that.
Okay. And so, yeah, I guess that answers my question. They have, through the training process, they are
Yes,
going to
sir.
become aware of, if they are that person's trusted adult, through whatever reason it might be.
Yes, and anything outside of the TEKS, even if they're a trusted adult. And so we kind of looked at the TEKS on some of those. There are times when the TEKS only reference parent or guardian. So we reinforce parent or guardian at that point. There are also times, of course, when it deals with abuse, where now the TEKS say trusted adult, or reporting a pregnancy says trusted adult. And most of those are areas that our teachers already get training on across the board for mandatory reporting.
Okay. Thank you.
Because of that question, I'll just touch on one change that, if you're looking at the book on page 67, there was a little bit of addition that we recommended adding to give the teachers like signs and symptoms of abuse. There's a little bit of addition there, and there are resources in there for them to look at when it comes to that aspect. So
that was actually one of my questions on page 67 is you can tell a teacher or another trusted adult, we crossed out or a school counselor, but we kept or a coach. So my question is, why did we cross off a school counselor?
actually, that might be an oversight now that you caught that, because we did previously use trusted adults specifically to replace specific titles, counselor, teacher. In this case, actually, I think we overlooked lining
So-
through or a coach.
Okay, so
Would
it
y'all
should
agree with
read,
that?
so it should read, you can tell a teacher or another trusted adult, and then line through or a skill counselor or a
Yes,
coach.
ma'am, that's a
Okay.
good catch. A
Okay.
very good catch. Thank you for that. We overlooked that. So yes, well, I think all of our committee here would agree that that is accurate. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right.
And if I may to go back, that was, we did that consistently in high school too, trying not to necessarily tell them who that trusted adult is so that they could.
That's why I was
decide.
confused, why one was crossed out and one was.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay. Do you want me to keep going, or did y'all have other questions? Okay, can we go back to page 29? Sorry, it's going to take me just a minute to get there. Oh, you know I don't know how to do technological stuff. So my question is, why did we cross through 23F TEAC?
I'm going to reference our notes. It might be that that TEAC wasn't actually hit in this lesson. That would be the main reason for that to be the case.
Okay.
I'm going to try to see why. Does anybody remember right off the top of y'all's head? Katie?
The TEAC was 23F, explain why abstinence is the preferred choice of behavior in relationships to all sexual activity for unmarried persons of school age.
It really wasn't addressed in the lesson.
Okay. So
It's addressed in every other lesson, but
Okay.
it was actually pretty
Okay.
So
odd in that
choosing
one.
the best put what TEACs they think were hit
Okay.
in each lesson, and our NEISD professionals sort of more accurately described what TEACs we felt or they felt were met. So yeah, that was just a TEAC that wasn't. It may have been touched on informationally, but wasn't like the actual requirement of the TEAC wasn't in this lesson, but is in other lessons.
Okay. So, I'm sorry, when I read things, I kind of get a little bit in the weeds, but I just am trying to understand some of your thought process.
Yes, ma'am.
So on page 55, it says, there was a lot of stuff that was crossed out about why does James wish he'd had better judgment? He realized it would have been better for him and his daughter if he'd gotten his life together first. It says, read the true false statements. The baby's father is legally required to support the baby. The answer is true, although the law. So I'm just curious why all of that was crossed through.
I actually was not present the day that they met on these lessons, but I believe that. Yeah, you can jump in.
So that's actually a 7th and 8th grade TEAC.
Okay.
When it's talking about the laws and support and that's actually 7th and 8th grade.
Okay.
And so we felt that that wasn't for 6th grade.
Very easy answer.
Yeah, I missed that day, unfortunately, so I trusted them to do it without me.
Okay, page 76. At the bottom where it says, why is it important to say no in a firm voice? And then you cross through, is it possible for some people to say no with their words, but yes or maybe with their actions, and how? Curious why you crossed through that.
We had a discussion about emphasizing no means no. It doesn't matter how you say no.
Okay.
Or if you whisper it. We didn't want to open the door for, is it really no, or is she saying no, but your eyes say yes type. That's what kind of we felt like that phrase led into.
But then it says a fourth way of being assertive is with your body language. So to me, it kind of flows with it.
So it was more of the way it was worded that says, if somebody says no, can they mean yes or maybe? That was the piece of it that we didn't like. We opted to just cut that and say that kind of with the implication that your body language can reinforce the no, rather than leave the door open that you can say no, but your body language can mean yes. That's why we, at the bottom there, added, why is it so important to respect personal boundaries, no matter how they are communicated? And then the answer is because no always means no. Say it with me. No always means no. The line through piece we felt like opened the door a little bit for a no not meaning no. Like saying body language could say yes while your words are saying no.
Okay.
Then to your point, the piece that follows through, body language is another way to communicate, but that's sort of to emphasize that your body language can reinforce the no or also say no.
Okay. I guess I'm just thinking kids, and do they need to understand that your body language could conflict with what you're saying? I mean, do they need to understand that both actions should be the same? Does that make sense?
No.
No, it doesn't make sense?
When it comes to this topic, body language means no, no means no. If they don't match and one says no and one says yes, no always means no. So by introducing, as I've heard you ask the question, you're focused on the person who's sending the message, of sending the right message. But we also are teaching that half the population that when the message comes, it's no, period. If you're confused by the information you're getting from the other side, because one kind of communication says no and one kind of communication says yes, that receiver needs to understand that at that moment, that's a no, period.
Okay.
And that's why we struck that out, to make it clear. Sorry.
No, good, thank you.
If I may, there was a
Apologize at all.
conversation along those lines of what he just mentioned, where this was very focused on the communicator and not, as Ron mentioned, the receiver of the communication.
Okay.
And so I believe that was a lot of that conversation, is the receiver also has some responsibility to
Okay.
know that anything suggesting no means no.
Okay. Page 78. At the top, another type of pressure teens experience is to sext when someone is asked to send a sexually related message or share inappropriate pictures, and you struck through a nude or partially nude photo of themselves. So I'm curious why you struck through that
We
to
op-
define inappropriate.
We changed it from saying a nude or partially nude photo of themselves and changed it to say inappropriate pictures for two reasons.
Oh, you said inappropriate.
Correct. We changed nude or partially nude to inappropriate. And the reason being is because inappropriate doesn't always have to be nude. Also, at the age group that we feel, we're talking about potentially 11, 12-year-olds that we felt it might be a little too introducing thoughts of saying nudes. And inappropriate we thought was more comprehensive. So it was inappropriate wasn't there. We replaced nude or partially nude with inappropriate pictures.
So my question is, will they know what an inappropriate picture is? I guess is,
So it's sort of I guess the onus is sort of, there is no definition of it, to your point. So it sort of is on the onus of them to think of what is inappropriate, right? Almost a conscience type level, I guess. So, fair point. Does anybody have anything to add to it?
I just don't want somebody to think that something that could be harmless is, because somebody's definition of inappropriate might be somebody else's definition of not. I mean,
Right. So an example for that, it would be if someone's messing around in the bathroom and they have a picture, they've got their camera and they flip it over the stall while someone else is using the bathroom. That would be inappropriate.
Right.
So that is not something that would be, something that they should be texting to someone else.
Right.
But then again, any type of, your body that you're supposed to be covering up anyway,
Right.
that would be inappropriate. A sixth grader should know that.
Okay.
That was our way of trying to justify and just put anything inappropriate, and a sixth grader would know what's appropriate and what's not.
Okay. Those are all my questions. Thank you.
I just got a couple. First off, before we get, thanks for all the great work y'all have been doing. It's in a very thoughtful way. I know it's a lot on y'all's plate, and y'all have been working really hard with the sixth grade. But first question for y'all, has the parent preview been drafted or written yet? And then was it written by the committee, the staff, both of y'all? Has that been done yet?
Diana, I'm gonna let you, and Katie, so, is,
Not for sixth grade.
Okay, that's what I'm asking. I didn't know y'all waiting until they get approved before you write. Who normally writes the parent previews? Is it going to be the actual committee members, the staff, combination?
the staff for the most part. So we did discuss parent preview for high school because we know that's coming up, and that's why I started to answer. But yeah, for sixth grade we haven't got. But the staff is basically putting it together, and we did have some comments and some I guess oversight, if you will.
Just for the record, this is the first time in NAIST in 70 years sixth grade students are getting sexual content. The previous program was just general refusal skills. So I want to make sure that it's fully descriptive of the most sensitive stuff for the parents, exactly to the point, Mr. Bauer. I don't want a teacher to say, I thought, or a kid or parent thought it was this, and then a teacher gets in a bad spot because we weren't very clear on the front end that this one, so because this is the first time we're having those 10, 11, 12-year-olds in sixth grade receiving actual stuff, parent choice, of course, but just want to make sure it's fully descriptive so that there's no clarity on that. The other piece of the teacher training for consistency across there, has there been consideration, this is probably more for you, Ms. Aguilar, of filming the thing so that that can be a resource for teachers and a refresher as you have new teachers come when you all train them or however y'all do the full training, because we want that consistency across the district and obviously sticking to the script and not.
So our plan is to train yearly, and it will be with the publisher if they're a new teacher. And then we will eventually have in-house trainers, as we have before, for our teachers who've taught it before. So there will be ongoing training every year.
Okay, because I just wanted to make sure we have a new curriculum, lots of changes, that the parents are well informed, because we don't want to put teachers in a bad spot where the information and clarity, I know they have the opt-out and that stuff, but just being very forward with them. Opt-in, thank you.
Opt-out's a dirty word in our committee.
Incorrect. And then are we able to, do we have the copyrights if we want to post the videos and material online so parents can use that as a resource as well if they wanted to teach at home with this material as well or supplement it?
So currently online through the HSAE portal are the directions. So every Northeast parent has access to that, and it actually takes them through Launchpad, which is different this year, and it will take them into the videos and the digital tools that are on.
So they have that access if they want to do it as well.
Yes.
Okay.
So they have access to all of these materials, and then they have access to that through choosing the best through Launchpad.
Okay. Those are all my questions. Thank you, Madam President. Thank you all for all the work, too.
Thank you, sir.
Anything else? Okay, do I have a motion to adopt the edited instructional materials for HSAE and abuse violence prevention for sixth grade as presented by the 2023-2024 SHAC, and certify that all students taking the sixth grade health course who have opted into this curriculum will be provided with instruction that complies with Texas law and covers 100% of the health TEKS related to HSAE and abuse violence prevention.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Landry. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Villarreal. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for the great work that you did doing all that.
Could we take a 5-minute break?
Sure.
Awesome.
At 9:02. Okay, the board is now going to reconvene into open session. The time is 9:07.
He'll be here in a second.
Item C, Business Services. 1, possible action regarding resolution indicative of the Board of Trustees' annual review of investment program. Mr. Villarreal.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Mike, executive staff, and guests. Tonight, we bring to you our annual investment report. We're hoping for a resolution to be able to approve that, the report.
Does anybody have any questions about this item?
One comment, Madam President. I think it's good. I saw we have like a 3.5% yield, 3.45, and about 15 million in positive interest for the district. So
Yes, sir.
it seems like it's very effective, and we're doing that. So I think it's great, and the range of stuff was a good.
Well, in the last year with the feds raising the rates, I mean, we are making some interest on our investments.
I thought it was a good
More so than,
explanation for us as trustees. So no, if that's it, Madam President, I think it's great, and thank you for the comment.
Mr. Byer, did you have any questions
did
about
not.
this? Okay. All right. Do I have a motion to approve the attached resolution?
So move.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Item D, consent. 1, business services. A, broker-dealer authorization. B, resolution approving sources of instruction relating to investment responsibilities. C, investment officer authorization. D, authorized representatives text pool and text pool prime. E, authorized representatives Lone Star. F, over 50,000 purchases. 2, minutes from September 2023. 3, end of consent. Do I have a board member wishing to pull an item from consent?
Madam President, can I pull D to the 11 September and 25 September minutes, please?
D2 minutes, okay. Is that all? Okay, so,
Did you have anything you want to pull? Your light's on.
oh,
No.
okay. Do I have a motion to approve consent without D2?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Okay, Mr. Hilliard, D2.
On 11 September, our minutes, it's page 3 and it's item number 3. It was very, I would say, unlike most of the rest of it, very not descriptive. It was just one sentence. It's about the motion. This was all about the single member district 2 trustee, but to somewhat reflect, there was a little bit more, or actually a lot more conversation, but at least some more highlights should be placed in there, in my opinion. I don't think this is really reflective. It was just, there was a motion by, second by, failed, motion by, second by, but not as robust. And most of the other stuff talks about that. So I feel like to be an accurate representation of the meeting, we'd need to have those minutes maybe the salient points kind of added to it, not just the simple there was a motion, because there was obviously a lot of discussion on that, I think, for the record. 25 September was similar. It had a little bit more, but definitely the 11 September, I think item number 3 has to be updated to be a little bit more robust.
Do you think you want something more like a transcript, do you think? I mean, because I know that was a lot of sort of back and forth.
No, I think more like the salient bullet points, like there was key points about this, or attach a transcript, we could, I guess. But I know it takes a lot of work, but this is just, obviously that really is, just says there was a motion that, obviously this was a more robust conversation, so we need to at least get some of the key points or salient points in there, I guess, in some sort of format. I don't know that we need the entire thing, because obviously it was a very long conversation, lots of different viewpoints, but I don't think this is a full representation of what we actually discussed.
Dr. Micah, aren't the meeting videos archived and always kept available? If someone wanted to go back?
Yeah, they're online.
Okay. Because I was just wondering if maybe even just make a note to refer to the video. Would that be even easier or something?
Something to that effect, say, please see the
Please,
meeting,
yeah.
see the
I
YouTube at this link at this time.
I would say
would
if
be
you put the timestamp on
with a
there.
timestamp on there,
Yeah.
or something to that effect. Because that way it allows people who want, if they want to, they can go, oh, boom, there we go. Something like that. It would,
I'm thinking about staff trying to transcribe all of that, and I have
that
yeah.
concern too. I just want to make sure we
I think it'd be more important to have the live link, or the live link there to the conversation,
I am
to
okay
make
with
it
that, because
more
then it lets
relevant.
people know there's more to it than just there was
Yes,
a motion.
yes.
So that's very reasonable, and I don't want to be overly burdensome by audience and staff.
Yeah.
Okay, is that something you want to do on all of your minutes moving forward? Is put a link? No, but my question is because you're trying to capture in a very succinct way, right? What happened, but because I mean we
Because
can put
we
a
do
link
have the
there.
availability now of all those videos that
Correct.
we didn't have in the past.
Well, they're on the website.
Right.
Exactly, but minutes used to be extremely extremely brief and just the points, the responses to the agenda, mainly
If it's
to make
not
note of the
hard to do,
motions,
it
but
just-
because, could put it up at the top of the minutes, here's the link to this meeting.
I think that's a simple solution, and that just provides one more easy thing for anyone who wants to see.
Yeah.
Right.
And it cross-references. I
Is
think
that-
that's a good
is
idea.
that good with
personally.
y'all?
If that's
That's
easy
great.
to do, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, okay, we'll make that happen. That's easy.
okay. Are we okay with approving then the September minutes with the addition of the link to that meeting? Would that be,
For
so
the-
that we don't have to bring it back again, is what I'm trying to go
For the
for?
11th and the 25th of September, that, yes. and
Well, just for all,
For all the meetings, that's fine, yeah.
For the minutes here, and then for all minutes going forward, just provide a link to the,
Yes.
to the meeting.
I'll make a motion then for all the September minutes to add a link to the minutes, the video, and all minutes going forward for this board.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The motion carries. Item 14, reports. A, interim financial and management reports. B, awarded bid report. C, federal grants report. D, open records request report. Those have been provided for you. Item 15, discussion and possible action regarding board members' requests for items to be placed on a future agenda and our request for reports from the administration. Do I have anything?
Madam Chair, I do. First of all, I just want to go back to National Lunch Week and make sure that everybody saw our little tag on here, peace, love, and enchiladas. So I just, we need enchiladas this
It
Wednesday.
is enchiladas, by the way.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, could we get some information, a report, at this point, it's not a motion, I'm asking a question on our number 5 speaker today on the issue at Harris and safety and things.
Miss Huey, on
I had a feeling
two-
you were probably already on it.
On two of
but-
them, I will send you, as a board, updates to 2 of those things this evening.
Thank you.
Okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
no motion.
We're
then.
already working on it.
No motion then, thank you.
Okay. Anything else?
And I have one, again, I don't know if this is a motion. I'm a slow learner. Sometimes I forget what we've talked about as far as, I'd like to get an enrollment, a 3-year enrollment for each of the schools in the district, all 62 campuses? No, sorry, 70, whatever campuses. Just a list of the campus and then the last, including this year, enrollment going back 3 years. I don't know if we have to move to that, if that's a report we can just get provided.
Ms. Lackhorn, we can, I think
Is
that's
that-
pretty
is that
easy,
information
right?
already available?
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Mr. Byer, you just wanting total enrollment, or are you wanting this broken out by grade level?
No, just total enrollment for
Okay,
each
yeah,
campus.
that's easy.
for the
So
last
like
3
Roan
years.
Forest
Yeah.
had this enrollment for 2022,
I want whatever our
2021.
So
2020.
this year, last year, and the prior year.
That's correct.
Okay?
Yeah, I think that would take a motion then to request a report, yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Mr. Byer, I just have a clarification on that. So we're in October, so all the previous years you want attendance at October time also?
Yes.
Just so it's all,
Yeah. I want, yeah, whatever the consistent is for that year, or October of each year.
When do we get that?
That's what I was about to ask before we make this.
So PEEM snapshot is the end of October. Right.
Okay.
So that is our official
So you wanna wait?
number.
I withdraw my motion.
Okay, you want to,
We'll bring it back after that.
There might be a November motion on the table. I think.
There might be something.
so
coming
what
up.
you're, hold on, where is this?
Well, you could make
In
the
the
motion for
envelope, right?
after.
Yeah.
You could
See,
make the
that's how
motion
old I
to
am.
have the report after the next PEEM's
Yeah.
final, yeah.
Well, let's do that then. I make a motion to get the enrollment for each campus for the last 3 years after the last PEIMS.
I second that.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Anybody else?
Oh, one point of clarification on that. Do you want that as an open report out here or as an email to the board, okay? Just so that
Email to
staff
the
knows what to do, yeah. Yeah, okay.
Or I'll just provide it in your packet that evening, or either
Oh,
or.
yeah.
Okay, is that okay? All right.
But it's not a presentation? No. Okay.
Thank you, that's the word I was looking for, thank you.
Anything else? All right, item 16, adjournment, and the time is 9:16. Thank you all.